Commissioners, you ready? Bridget, Russ, you ready? Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's 6:31. I'm calling this regular meeting of the Plan Commission to order. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. The roll call is showing that Commissioner Bill Shadid is absent excused, and Bob Williams, I'm sure, will come in. We are now on to item 3, citizen input public appearance. Would anybody like to speak tonight? And please be mindful that we do have 3 public hearings. So if you're going to be talking about a particular topic, that it may be best served at the public hearing. But good evening and welcome. We have 3 public hearings where we're going to be soliciting input from the public. So, but good evening and welcome. And please have your yellow sheet filled out. Thank you.
I'll get it when I'm done.
Okay.
I had more I was going to talk about, but I was just talking to a couple of people, and we have a consultant that we're going to be paying thousands of dollars to come in and, look at our budget and everything else. And I think that E and F should be postponed until we have this man come in that you're paying thousands of dollars with our money for, to hear what he's got to say. And I don't understand why you would not have E should be for discussion only, and F. Now, I had a chance to talk to somebody in our village about all these apartment plans coming up, and the village here, the people that live here do not want apartments. They want home ownership, okay? That brings in taxes. Apartments don't bring the amount of taxes in that ownership does. And I was told that until this board and this village comes up with a plan for home ownership that they can go by when developers come, their hands are tied. So why are we screwing around with worrying about multifamily when this village, all these people came in meeting after meeting? You had no major public meetings, but the overall objective was we don't want apartments. They cause a lot of commotion, and you have this in your hand to stop this tonight. And until we have a plan for how we're going to do home ownership in this village, that's what the people who foot the bill want, okay, more than anything. That's what's going to bring in tax dollars. When I heard with one of the rental units, this board just passed what they're getting in taxes is ridiculous. If you took all the units times what they would pay for regular home ownership tax, it's unsurmountable. Why are we so foolish? I don't get it. I don't know where we're coming from anymore in this village. I really don't understand. Both those things, E and F, should be one is discussion, but they both should be, and we should have a plan for multi-home units, ownership, condos, whatever. And when I look at what they did to Tosa and West Dallas, they destroyed it with all these apartment buildings. The traffic is unbelievable. And that's what we're in for. The way this village is set up, it can't even Pilgrim Road. I have to wait. I counted them. 50 cars before I could cross from my street to get on Pilgrim Road. That's crazy. And a few years back, there was none of that. And so when the 50 went one way, I had to wait for 25 going the other way. It was ridiculous. I sat there like an idiot trying to get across. Now I'm going to cut around. But this is what's going to happen. And you are not realizing the effect that this is going to have on our community. We need home ownership. Please use your heads and discuss this and start planning for that. The people that ran this village, our developer and our past administrator, really did not help us at all. And they keep pushing this 250 plan. It's not a law. Scrap it. We got 25 years. Let the next generation plan for it. Let's do what we can afford to do now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak? If you want to come up and speak, that's fine. And even if it's on the public hearing, if you're not going to be here for that, you're more than welcome to. Good evening and welcome. Just fill out your yellow form.
I didn't get a yellow form. Yeah, that one.
Good evening, welcome.
This out and
No
get
worries,
this,
no
but
worries.
At any rate, I'm Archie Reeder. I live on Fond du Lac Avenue, less than a half a mile from Mr. Benke's property. We've lived there 34 years, and as the lady that was just speaking was talking about, we're just more and more traffic. Yeah, we've lived on Fond du Lac Avenue for 34 years, and the traffic has increased dramatically. I don't see that allowing Mr. Benke to develop his property further will have an impact on traffic. When Richfield Days is going, there's massive traffic. When the 4th of July is going, there's massive traffic. It's just the nature of the beast there now. I think a lot of the cause of the traffic is Gale's expansion, Leesner's expansion, and when the roundabout comes in, we're going to see more troubles. At any rate, speaking with Mr. Benke and his wife on Saturday, and seeing the facility, I think that it's short-sighted to not allow them to go forward. I think they're offering a very nice venue for the community. It is an upscale venue that is open to the public. I think that's a very important thing. We don't have something like that now. It's a really nice facility. They've done a lot of upgrades and regulations limiting entrepreneurship. I think, the Republican Party and so much of what we hear is, we need to be anti-regulation. Well, here we're trying to regulate a guy who's trying to improve the community. And that's all I got. I'll give you the yellow sheet in a minute.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak? Good evening and welcome.
Hi, I'm here with Bill, my husband, and we live on Fond du Lac Avenue across the street from Apple Works Winery. We've lived in Germantown for 44 years. We enjoy the winery. We don't have any issues with traffic or anything involved with that. There's no noise or anything like that. We've only had good positive results when we go there, and I think adding coffee will be really nice. The only sad thing for me is we're relocating to Oshkosh and I will have to drive an hour to get here to get my coffee. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak?
Peggy Reeder. I live just down the street, less than half a block from Apple Works. They're not open after 5, so that's not a problem. I'm more concerned about traffic like from Stags, the bar, rather than anything else. I've never seen an issue. Occasionally when I go by, I'll see, a wedding or party or something. There's not a problem with noise. They're set off from the road. Again, with the entrepreneurship issue, I think Germantown needs something like this, and it will bring in more and open business for more restaurants. They're visiting the restaurants in the local community. I think it's a good thing.
Great, thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak? Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I just want to make some comments about the last agenda item F. This has been something that definitely needs to be clarified, so I'm glad it's on the agenda for discussion. I would suggest that using the terms single family and multifamily is adding to the confusion, because you can have home ownership in a multifamily building. It's not related to the type of building, whether it's a townhouse, which might be attached to another townhouse, or a side-by-side, which is attached to a second house, or even just one house surrounded by 5 acres. Those can all be single-family homes that are owned by individuals or couples or whatever the arrangement may be. So I think that it would be better to clarify based on more, less the building type and more about the actual legal resident type, whether it's a lease or a home that is owned by some individuals. The other thing that I would like to suggest, this is a question I asked last year, which has not yet been answered, and that is, how are we categorizing some of the assisted living and elder homes that we have in the community? Some of those, I was told, I'm not sure if this is true, are actually owned, and they might be in a multi-unit facility. Obviously, the ones that are more geared towards assisted living are a lease type arrangement. I don't know if that is part of this number or not. And so I think there needs to be some clarification around that as well. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight? Do we have anybody on WebEx? I didn't get the sign that we do. Nope. Okay. We are now moving on to item 4, minute meetings for the Plan Commission of February 9, 2026. I'll entertain a motion. We have a second?
Second.
We have discussion. And I'm going to abstain because I was not here. And I want to thank Trustee Warren for chairing the meeting. So
I will also be abstaining because I also wasn't here.
great. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And 2 abstentions. That motion carries. We are now on to new business. Item A, Kevin Benke, a property owner and agent for Appleworks Winery, W179N12536 Fond du Lac Avenue, application to amend the conditions of approval in conditional use permit number 05-2022 that apply to the operation of the Appleworks Winery LLC, including the expansion of the hours of operation and uses to allow a morning coffee shop from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we will also have a public hearing once staff provides their comments, and potentially we'll hear from the applicant as well. So Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. President. The property in question is approximately 10 acres in size, located on Fond du Lac Avenue as highlighted on the screen. I've got a few other slides that show various angles of the property that'll be dispersed throughout the staff presentation. We can go back to them as you discuss as necessary. A little history. The original conditional use permit was granted back in 2013. Conditional use permit number 01-13 allowed for a winery with various features. 2.5 acre vineyard was planned, manufacturing, processing, storage, and wine sales, a tasting room and retail store, an outdoor patio with a pergola, seasonal sales and events were proposed, or hours of operation that were established. And then in 2020, the owner proposed some amendments to the overall operation, including to renovate and convert a barn, 2,800 square feet, into a wedding venue with a catering kitchen, add event venue as a permitted use in the conditional use permit, and also to construct or get permission to construct a parking area approximately 35 to 50 vehicles. That series of proposed amendments were denied by the village board in the year 2021. Soon thereafter, the owner approached the village with some additional amendments, most of them being the same as what were proposed back in 2020. Those amendments were proposed back in 2022, and ultimately they were approved in December of 2022, and they included expanding the winery hours from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. To 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., additional of 2 extra hours in the evening. It expanded the winery operation to include the renovated barn with the seating capacity up to 125 persons for the event venue, allowed construction of the vehicle parking area north of the outdoor patio and tasting room building. And it also allowed for the conversion of the existing dwelling on the property into a bed and breakfast short-term rental after or concurrent with construction of a new and separate single-family dwelling on the property for the owner. At this time, the owner is proposing another series of amendments to the conditional use permit. That permit number 05-2022, that was adopted in 2022 with the changes that were proposed with a total of 22 conditions. At this time, the owner is proposing 6 amendments. And those amendments include deleting condition number 11 that restricts the transferability of the CUP to only family members. Deleting condition number 12 that prohibits the sale or service of hard liquor without first obtaining approval from the village to amend the CUP for such sales. To revise condition number 16 to expand hours for indoor music in the tasting room and the barn. To revise condition number 17 to expand the hours of operation for all winery activities. To delete condition number 18 that requires installation and operation of a sound monitoring system at all times when the winery is operating. And to add a new use of the tasting room as a morning coffee shop to the list of permitted activities with hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. daily. The winery operation with the tasting room, the patio area, and the event building is generally consistent with the agritourism uses promoted in the 2050 plan for rural preservation. The bed and breakfast is an allowable use with a conditional use permit in the A2 agricultural zoning district within which this property is located. The Appleworks winery operation has grown and evolved with more and different activities and events than were what originally were proposed. In 2013, commitments were made to the neighbors that the winery operation would be quiet, not serve hard alcohol, not become a restaurant, and only operate until 9 p.m. Increased growth yields greater opportunity for incompatible uses and increased impacts on surrounding rural areas and abutting neighborhoods, such as noise and traffic. With that, the owner, back in 22, proposed and has taken a series of measures to reduce or mitigate potential impacts, particularly noise. The live music indoors and the outdoor music is limited to outdoor patio area only. Music is limited to acoustic instruments by soloists and small ensembles with low wattage amplifiers and speakers. And there's no amplified or pre-recorded piped-in music outdoors. There was also a system that was installed, a sound monitoring and notification system that was installed on the property to identify when a certain sound level was met. The owner was then notified, and then he could take appropriate action to limit or reduce that potential noise impact. With regard to the proposed changes, condition number 11, it limits on the transferability of the CUPs actually started in the year 2000, but has not been included on all CUPs that have been adopted by the village. It was added to the Appleworks CUP in 2022. The limits on transferability of the CUPs is generally included for those CUPs that involve an operation that may be considered acceptable under specific terms and commitments by the operator that may not necessarily be the same nor acceptable under a different operator. Also, this particular provision has been used where and when an operator or owner makes specific commitments that may be unique to that particular operation, such as voluntarily deploying a sound level metering system that was installed voluntarily by Mr. Benke for his Appleworks operation before it became a condition of approval approved by the village board back in 2022. Staff does support the modification to the transferability language to address Mr. Benke's concern regarding the substantial and long-term generational investment in the operation that he has made, provided it gives the village some assurance that the operation would continue operating as permitted in the event of a sale of the property and or the Appleworks winery operation. So there is, in one of the conditions that staff is recommending, some modifications to that transferability language that we can go over. With regard to the second proposed amendment, condition number 12, the prohibition on sale of hard liquor was added back in 2022 after Mr. Benke indicated that he was not interested in serving hard liquor, but may do so in the future. So there was a specific condition added that says you can't unless you come back and get the CUP amended first before you obtain your liquor license. As I mentioned, condition 12 prohibits that opportunity for the owner to obtain permission to serve hard liquor, including an amendment to the CUP first and prior to obtaining the necessary liquor license. Mr. Benke did obtain a full-service liquor license back in 2024 from the State Department of Revenue prior to amending the CUP. That is happening as part of this series of amendments. The proposed revisions to condition number 16, the third proposed amendment, and to condition number 17, the fourth proposed amendment to extend hours, would have the general effect of extending the overall hours of operation and when indoor music can be played, creating a potential for greater and more spread out negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. However, it is important to point out that no specific noise complaints have been received by the village regarding the winery operation since 2022. With regard to condition number 18, the requirement for a sound monitoring system, that was, again, originally installed voluntarily by Mr. Benke. The board added it as a condition in 2022. In this application, Mr. Benke is seeking that that condition be deleted altogether. He's indicated that the sound system that was installed in 2022 has become antiquated and it's no longer supported by the manufacturer and no longer in use. With that said, staff does believe the continued use of a sound monitoring system is a reasonable, cost-effective approach to monitoring the most significant concern of surrounding property owners, that being noise, and in turn should be used as the basis, or can be used as the basis for any future enforcement action if when deemed necessary by the village. Mr. Benke is requesting also, the next amendment is Mr. Benke is requesting that the list of permitted uses and activities be expanded to include a morning coffee shop to be open from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Sunday to Saturday, with additional food items for sale beyond the current items that are sold, prepackaged items, etc. Back in 2022, Mr. Benke stated he had no intention of expanding the menu of food items served in the winery because he didn't want the business to become or include a restaurant. Specific food items to be sold as part of the coffee shop have not been identified as beyond what would be allowed under the standard food license that he has obtained from Washington County. With that said, staff's recommendation is to approve some of the proposed amendments for the Appleworks Winery as proposed by the owner. Unless modified or added to as specified in the staff report and recommendation, all of the existing conditions in CUP 05-2022 shall remain in full force and effect. All existing revised conditions in the staff report and recommendation shall be incorporated into a new CUP document recorded as a restriction on the property if approved by the village board. With that, we can go to public hearing, and afterwards we'll come back, and as part of the discussion, we can get into the specific conditions.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the Village of Germantown Plan Commission at the Germantown Village Hall located at N112 W17001 Mequon Road, Germantown, Wisconsin, and virtually through the WebEx platform on the following date and at the time noted below, Monday, March 9th, 2026, 6:30 p.m. or later. The purpose of said hearing will be to hear all parties, their attorneys or agents for or against the following application to amend conditional use permit 05-2022 issued to Kevin Benke, property owner, and Appleworks Winery LLC to permit the operation of winery, event venue, and short-term rental from the property described below. In this application, the owner is requesting that certain existing conditions of approval be revised and or removed, and that the permitted hours of operation and uses be expanded to allow a morning coffee shop from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. The applicant is Kevin Benke, property owner, property address W179N 12536 Fond du Lac Avenue in Germantown. Would anybody like to come forward tonight, either in favor or against this? Good evening and welcome.
sorry to read off of a paper, but I want to make sure I get all my comments in. So my name is Kirk Will. I reside at W177 N12604 Apple Blossom Lane. My residence is approximately 600 feet from Mr. Banky's business. I've lived there for the past 17 years. I live at the residence with my wife, 8-year-old son, and 10-year-old daughter. Just as in 2021 and 2023, I'm here to speak in opposition to some portions of the CUP amendments to Appleworks Winery. Let's start with the Plan Commission themselves point out several concerns with the proposed amendments. First, I'll start with something that is a theme with Mr. Banky when it comes to changes on his property. He says one thing and he does another. Look no further than in 2013, which the Plan Commission did mention in their report, where Mr. Banky made the following 3 commitments to the neighbors. The winery operation would be quiet, serve no hard alcohol, and only operate till 9 p.m. We've already broken with the last CUP, operating till 9 p.m. He now seeks to break the other 2 things. Despite Mr. Banky not keeping his word, I don't come here to oppose everything that he asked for. I don't have some personal vendetta against him. I have no opposition to the morning hours regarding the coffee shop or the food he serves in his establishment, nor did I oppose the bed and breakfast or any opposition to the winery itself. What I do oppose are the amendments which will continue to break his commitments that he already made. He seeks to delete condition number 11 about the CUP transferability. As the Plan Commission states, this was put in place to make sure that commitments would be upheld if and when Mr. Banky decides to sell to a non-family member. I reviewed the Plan Commission's alternate proposal and new language, and I think that I don't oppose that, but I do oppose the outright deleting of the CUP transferability. Mr. Banky seeks to get rid of condition number 12, restricting the sale of hard alcohol, in direct violation of his commitment in 2013. However, Mr. Banky already obtained the necessary license from the state and now just wants that condition gone. He says that getting the license was premature, but again, it is the same tactic of obtaining something first, then saying you have it and you might as well just approve it. It's the same thing that was done with the infrastructure for the wedding venue. It's not premature, it's thought out and intentional. He seeks to amend conditions 16 and 17 regarding music and hours of operation. Again, I'm not in opposition to the morning hours proposed for the coffee shop, but have accepted how Mr. Banky wants it. He now can have music every day of the week up until 10 p.m. And the best for last, to get rid of condition 18, the sound level monitoring system, a condition that Mr. Banky voluntarily said he would do in order to get the initial CUP changes. By his own admission, and the planner confirmed it, the system is not functional and hasn't been for some time, which is in direct violation of the CUP. Rather than fix it or update it, he'd rather you just delete it. Not only does he not follow his commitments to his neighbors, he doesn't even follow the conditions set forth in the CUP. And it's no mystery why he wants to get rid of it right now when the potential of hard liquor license at expanded hours will bring the real noise nuisance with the weddings that will get quite large. The Plan Commission themselves says it's not unreasonable to implement measures necessary to limit or mitigate potential noise impacts. This amendment should absolutely not be deleted. Mr. Banky's plan is long-term and obvious. He continues chipping away at conditions of the CUP. The way this proposed exponentially increases noise and traffic concerns. And you'll note that all the people that speak in favor of it don't live 600 feet away from the property or 300 feet like my neighbors that couldn't be here tonight. The Plan Commission in their write-up stated, and I quote, "At what point, if any, does the operation become too much or too big to remain compatible with the surrounding properties and rural character? I'll answer the question for them. Now is the point if all of those requests are approved." The job of this board and the village board is to find middle ground and compromise with issues such as these. They do that by imposing conditions that protect the interest of opposed parties. By his own admission, Mr. Banky already showed that he didn't follow at least one condition set forth. The answer isn't to say, well, let's just delete that condition for him. If this was to be approved, you might as well just change the name to a use permit because there would basically be no conditions any longer. The last thing that I want to point out is address this picture in my hand. If you can't see it, that's President Soderberg's Facebook post from a few months ago where he's pictured with the Bankys and he writes, and I quote, "Wonderful time with awesome friends. Public officials can be friends with anyone they so choose or patronize any business they so choose. It is a free country. However, not only are you a member of the paid wine club, but by your own personal post, you are close friends with the Bankys. I'd respectfully ask you abstain from voting on anything that has to do with this. Of course, I can't stop you, but it reeks of impropriety if you do." In closing, I would ask the Plan Commission to strike down this proposal tonight and not have it go through as it stands right now. Because if it passes now, there are even more friends or close associates of Mr. Banky on the village board, some of which I know from past experience are incapable of being impartial in their public capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak, either for or against? Good evening and welcome.
Hi, my name is Dan Remming. I live on Apple Blossom Lane as well. I don't have as many comments as Kirk did, but I wanted to echo some of the similar concerns. One of my main concerns is, like he mentioned, is the purpose of a conditional use permit. I feel like the purpose is to restrict some of these requests. By eventually just continuing to chip away at and change this kind of thing, we're kind of allowing the door to be open for bars to be opened on other agriculturally zoned land. I understand Mr. Banky is trying to run a business, and there's lots of aspects to that and trying to expand it, and I totally understand. But you're in a rural area zoned agricultural, and you're just chipping away at it. In this case, I feel like if the village allows it to pass, it's sort of just saying you can start out with a barn, apple trees, farming, winery, continue to the point where we have a bar, music, all the things that we recently moved to this area to get away from, to be in the rural part of the village. So I just wanted to voice my concern on that front. This is something that we were just made aware of recently. So just wanted to voice some opinions as somebody who lives basically right next door. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight, either for or against? Do we have anyone on WebEx? We don't. And I do know that we had a couple email communications come in, correct?
That's correct. We had one in support from Mr. Stephen Olson, who lives at N128W17416 Holy Hill Road. And then we also we distributed that to each Plan Commission member, and we had a letter that was submitted in objection to the CUP proposal by Sam and Jenna Crushel, who live at W177N12581 Apple Blossom Lane. And those documents are on the dais in front of each Plan Commission member.
Great. So we had 4 in favor and then 3 against. So we'll now turn it, this public hearing is closed at 7:04. We'll turn it back over to staff. Jeff?
Thank you. With respect to the 6 proposed amendments, staff does support 4 out of the 6 with some modifications to the language. Specifically, and I'm referring to page 7 of the staff recommendation, with regard to the first proposed amendment, the request to delete the transferability requirement. Staff proposes some modified language that reads as follows: this conditional use permit shall be transferable, provided that any change in the operation and/or property owner is reported to the Community Development Department, along with any proposed changes to the operation, permitted uses and activities, and extent of the operation on the property. In the event there are any changes, village staff shall work cooperatively with the new operator/owner to evaluate the need to enforce condition number 3, which is one of the conditions in the original CUP that basically says if things change over the course of time from what you originally told the village how you were going to operate, the village has a right to review your conditional use permit through the standard CUP process, public hearing, and so on, and possibly make changes to the conditional use permit up to revocation of the conditional use permit. With regard to the second proposed amendment to condition 12, deleting the requirement with regard to the sale or service of hard liquor, staff does support the service of hard liquor with revisions to condition 12 that would read as follows: the sale and dispensing of hard liquor shall be allowed on the winery premises subject to applicable village and Wisconsin Department of Revenue licensing requirements and limitations. With regard to the third proposed amendment revising the hours for indoor music. Staff does support the proposed changes to expand the hours for indoor music. With regard to the proposed amendment number 4, the proposed change in the overall hours of operation, staff does support the change to the proposed hours of operation as proposed. With regard to amendment number 5, condition number 18, the request is to delete condition number 18 that requires installation and operation of the sound monitoring system. Staff does not support that request. We do propose some modification to the language to condition 18, and that would be revised to read as follows. A sound monitoring and notification system shall be installed and operational on the property during all hours of operation. While the winery is operating from the property, the owner operator of the winery shall continuously monitor and keep records of sound levels during all hours of operation and implement whatever measures may be necessary to limit sound levels at or below 65 decibels on an A-weighted scale. In the event complaints are received concerning sound levels that may be in excess of 65 decibels, the owner operator shall make the sound level data collected on the date of said complaints available for inspection by the village. And finally, with regard to the 6th proposed amendment, adding the new use, the tasting room, to be allowed as a morning coffee shop between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. Staff does support that proposed amendment as listed under condition 7 in the staff report. And there's one other condition staff is adding, irrespective of the proposed amendments. And that is, read as follows: pursuant to section 12.03 of the Germantown Municipal Code, and subject to the same restrictions and limitations set forth herein, the owner operator of the winery shall obtain an outdoor entertainment permit for any outdoor music or entertainment provided on the property. This is a new condition added by staff simply because the village adopted a new outdoor entertainment permit requirement that applies to every business in the village that may have outdoor entertainment. And I understand through the clerk's office that the winery does not have that outdoor permit. Maybe they don't need it, but if they do have outdoor music playing, they need to get that permit. So that is a summary of staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Do you have any questions from the commissioners of staff? And we can bring the applicant up as well. So. Bob?
Jeff, I have 2 questions. First, I just want to make sure I understand the change in language on the condition of transferability. Basically, it's saying they can transfer to anybody as long as the party who is acquiring it is going to operate the business under the same conditions that we have put in place under this CUP, correct? And if there's going to be any changes to that, they have to come back in front of us and get those approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If there are any changes, the new owner comes back, reports what those are. We discuss with the new owner and decide, hey, are these such that it rise to the level where we need to go back and review the CUP? And if they're not, I don't know what those would be. But if they're not, then we don't do anything at that point.
Okay. I mean, basically, we were allowing them to transfer to a family member as long as they were going to operate under the same conditions. So now we're just allowing them to do it to any outside third party as long as it's under the same conditions.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then second question is on the liquor license. For my benefit, if it's regulated by the DOR now, do you know how long the liquor license, the term is, and how do they regulate it if the village doesn't really have a say in who's going to obtain a hard liquor license in our village? And then last question, just from a violation standpoint, if the applicant obtained the liquor license in July of 24 and we're in March of 26, what has he done with it for the last 2 years? Has there been hard liquor served out, which would be in violation of the CUP? Or, I mean, why would you have obtained a liquor license 2 years ago that you haven't been using?
I'll just answer real quick before Mr. Benke jumps in. My understanding is that the DOR liquor license is valid for a period of 2 years. There is a copy in the packet of materials that was left on the dais this evening. There is a copy of that liquor license in the packet.
Is this on? I think it is.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
good.
I'll just entertain that liquor license thing right off the bat. In 2000 and, let's see here. I got a letter from the village advising me that my liquor license was going to expire 2 months before the deadline because of this change with the Department of Revenue. And this letter was nice, but it came 2 days before it was going to expire. So I scrambled for 2 days to try to figure it out, and it was on a Saturday. So on Monday, I called the Department of Revenue and left them a message because we were going to a funeral. And they got back to me and they were very nice, and they sent me a packet. They say, fill this packet out and we'll work with you to see what you qualify for and what you don't qualify for. Well, in a letter from Germantown, it says, do not contact the Village of Germantown on instructions on how to apply for the required state issued permit, as our office does not have this information. Your business information has been provided to the state for informational purposes. So what was my option? I'd call the state of Wisconsin and fill out the packet, and they gave me a license. Kind of how it went. And we have not sold any hard alcohol in there at all. I mean, I have bought some, yes. That's strictly because of what's happened now lately in the country, just tariffs and stuff like this. And I have been inventorying it. Because I didn't want to pay any kind of tax or extra tariff on some of that hard liquor. Because it could add up pretty quickly. So that's your answer to the liquor license. I was between two people, the village and the Department of Revenue. So my decision was what I just told you. And if I get criticized for that, that's how it falls. In regards to some of the other things on this agenda, my original permit, when I first got the winery in 2002, had 8 restrictions. And one of them was to have it inspected by the fire department. It was a straightforward CUP, no hidden anything. And all along, I have said from the beginning that hard alcohol at this point, I'm not going to be interested in that because I don't think I need it. And to be honest with you, before COVID, I did not need it. We did a lot of corporate events, and all there was people were interested in was beer and wine. That's it. Once we reopened after COVID, the whole dynamics of everything has changed. And, we're trying to book stuff for that thing, but as soon as I mention I don't have hard alcohol, it's dead. It's over. Conversation's history. So it's taken a lot of potential away from me because of that. So that's why I'm asking for now that to have that. And we do not have any intention of putting it in the tasting room or offering it during tasting room hours. It's strictly for the event building. And a lot of times we won't be serving it. But if we do a wedding or we do some sort of, let's say, anniversary, and if they request it, I want to be able to offer it. This isn't like I was saying going to be a bar or ever. That's not my deal. It never has been. So I get accused of trying to chip away at things. I've been in business for 46 years with my other business. You roll with the punches or you get left behind. If you don't adapt, it's like anything, even the village, if you don't adapt, you're a history. So if you look at the things, if you really lay it out on a spreadsheet, as the market has changed, I have tried to change with it. And I guess if you want to, fault me for that, I guess I'm guilty. But if you don't do that, you're not going to survive. And I couldn't have been in business that long if I was for 46 years dealing with large manufacturing people and not be honest and straightforward. You just wouldn't survive that length of time. And I appreciate some of the comments that, our new neighbor made, and Will, of course, but there's some bad history with Will, so I don't want to go into that right now. So some of those comments might reflect on those old days with his parents. So, I don't think he's that way, but you have to think in the back of your mind that could be a bad guy. But I understand his concerns. I mean, the traffic and all this stuff, a little story behind that traffic. I've had that property since 2002. I bought it from Dr. Dudley Johnson. And never in my wildest dreams thought I'd have accidents across the street at 2 a.m. with the Flight for Life helicopter hovering above my house with the searchlights on. And then closing the highway down to get, probably a very bad accident person out of his vehicle. Or having my mailbox post taken off 3 times with a 6x6. Or having a car end up in a tree in my by the pond because they drove off the road, or having a car come over the berm and take out another tree when I'm not even at home. So, I mean, that property has seen some, you can't control what other people do. It's just impossible. And I appreciate the fact that they don't want people driving down their driveway. I wouldn't either. That's why I put a gate up in 2005, because I had quad axle dump trucks turning around in there, semis trying to turn around. So that's why the gate went up. So you adapt. Again, it's all about adapting. I mean, this last year in the morning, at 8 o'clock in the morning, my daughter and I went over to the tasting room because she wanted to get something out of there for a charity event she was doing. And she goes, Dad, there's somebody sitting on the patio. This is at 8 in the morning. He had his cell phone plugged into my outlet. I'm like, who are you? And he goes, well, I'm just sitting here. Gate was open. I'm like, are you kidding me? At 8 in the morning on my patio. So you can't control what some of these people do. You wonder what they're thinking. But that's just life. I mean, if you could put signage up, you can do whatever, but my answer was the gate. And that has reduced whatever problems I've had. People talk about, oh, my package or some Amazon will be stolen. Bought a lot of stuff from Amazon. I never had one package stolen, ever. So, I mean, different strokes for different folks. But I'm trying to give you a sense that this isn't a chip away at anything. I mean, like the request I've asked it to being able to sell that thing, I thought that was a very bad thing to put on me at the time when we had this redone, because my initial permit did not have that. Nor did my initial permit in 2002, when I bought the property, to have a storage facility and build a fourth building there. None of those restrictions were on that about a family member deal. I think that's really bad. And, I'd like to invest more money there. I've invested a lot of money in Germantown. I've been here since 90. I built commercial buildings. I did the subdivision that my neighbors live in. I remodeled a building that was foreclosed in Germantown. I've stuck a lot of money into this property. I have a 4-year inventory of wine. So to put a restriction on that you can't sell it to anybody other than a family member, maybe my kids don't want it. So there you sit. So how much more money do you invest in the property to, build another house, have these restrictions? It'd be just throwing good money after bad. I mean, so you have to look at it realistically. And I appreciate everything, but if people get to know me, they would see that it's not what a lot of people have tried to represent me at. It just doesn't exist. I couldn't survive this long with it if I was that way.
Sure, and I understand the issue about the transferability. I'm actually one who a lot of times when the CUP comes up, I ask the question of how long a CUP lasts. So and the reason for that is that the village and the community know you, know the owner and have talked to the applicant. If you sell, we don't know who you're selling to. And if the CUP is just going to transfer unconditionally to anybody you buy, they don't even have to come in and talk to the village. And now we have no idea who we approved those conditions for. So it gives the opportunity for the village to review that when that occurs. So
the village should have a notification that, hey, I'm selling the property to Bob or whoever it might be, or my son is going to take it over. When you're going to want to know whether he's going to follow my lead on operating it the same way I've been doing it. I mean, I understand all that, but like I say, to remodel that clause, I think is needed. It's not fair to me. Not fair for me being in Germantown for 35 years that I can't sell it to anybody. And all that stuff goes away. Spent a lot of money on all these permits to come in here. Do you think I like coming in here and standing there? No, I don't. I'm not that kind of person. My wife was shocked that we were going to do the winery because I'm not social, but that's changed. We've met a lot of nice people with the winery. They have become friends. It's different than what everybody thinks. Winery is not a bar. It's just not. And the option to have more extensive food. Right now, the catering kitchen I put in the event space is awesome. It's a first-class kitchen. I mean, we've had stuff catered from Johnny Manhattan's, from Joe at Sloppy Joe's, Sendik's, all these other catering people have come in there and use that. But I want the option that if I want to make something for a private dinner, I want to be able to do that. And I don't think that's a big request, especially with the food license that I have lets me do that as long as I have it done with somebody that has a manager's food license. And we have a line on a guy that has one. He's got a 5-year license. And I'd like to be able to offer that. Farm to table type thing, you know, a couple times a month. I can't see a harm in that. And, you know, the restrictions we have on some of this stuff with the noise, I appreciate that too. But sometimes I feel that I've been singled out with that noise, and that same level of protection for the neighbor hasn't been applied to a lot of other people in the town that have had complaints forever about noise. I mean, I'm looking at some stuff here now that I got off. I mean, there's a couple bars and stuff in Germantown that they've been on the carpet for a long time with noise. I don't have a problem with monitoring the noise, but I'd like some flexibility with doing that. I'd like to only monitor it in the summertime. Forget about the winter. When it's 20 below, the stuff doesn't work. It's outside. It's frozen. You're chipping the ice off of it. Batteries last 1 month. I'd like to just operate it. If you feel that's a stickling point, operate one just for the summer. In the wintertime, nobody's outside. And the other thing with live music outside, I had it 2 times last year. That's it. Some of these places have live music Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Holy cats, they got full bands. That's not us. I mean, we've had music 2 times last year, and I think 2 times before, the year before. Because I don't want to compete with all these guys that have all these bands now. That seems to be the trend, and that's why Germantown, I printed the whole ordinance thing here now with some of this stuff. I understand why you've gone in that direction. I appreciate it. But I don't fall into that category. I just don't. So, I mean, Jeff has been willing to work with me on some of this stuff, and I feel that I'm not chipping away at anything. I'm rolling with the punches.
Okay, understood. I just want to make one comment to reboot your comment about not being able to sell it. I don't think that the condition in the CUP restricts your ability to sell the business. I think what it does is you have an asset purchase agreement because they're not going to buy the equity of the business. And in the asset purchase agreement, they're going to put a contingency that says they have to come in front of the plan commission and get a CUP approved by the village and under the same conditions you have. And if they don't get that, then they wouldn't buy it. And so if that would force them to have to come in front of the village. So the village is not restricting you from selling it. They're restricting you from selling it without somebody having to come and get the CUP approved, just so we understand what that condition is doing.
Be okay with that.
Okay.
We won't have to come back to do this. It can be reviewed by the board or whatever, and no public hearing involved, and because, I spent a lot of time and money to just get it to this point. I don't need to be handicapped with that. And if they don't follow the rules, that's their problem, not mine.
Further questions for staff and or the applicant? Russ?
I just want to talk about the sound monitoring.
Okay.
So my understanding is it hasn't been working for a
In the
while.
last couple of months, because when we had that really bad weather and all the stuff after the first of the year, the stuff was I got a notification on my phone. So there's a threshold. If it rains, because the main hub is in the building. So if it rains on the metal roof, I'm getting notifications at 2 in the morning that I'm out of the zone. Or somebody's mowing their grass with a lawnmower, with a chainsaw work. I get notifications. Sometimes I'll get 30 of them because the thing is just so sensitive. Because it's on the lot line, it's outside, it's picking up everything. I mean, dump trucks drive by, it'll go off. So I got a call into the guys that bought the company to see if I can change that threshold number. Because I don't want to get all these notifications all the time. When you want to leave your phone on at night in case somebody calls you, an emergency. Well, it got to the point where I just turn it off now.
Sure.
So when those batteries started to be replaced again, I just said, that's it. But I knew I was coming in here. That's all.
Did it ever effectively work
Yeah.
in regards to?
When I installed it, we picked up more noise from the road when dump trucks are going by and rockets are flying by at 140 than we did from the winery. Because we don't have music all the time.
Sure.
And, with the mitigation we did in the building, we put in mineral wool insulation in there, which was recommended by a sound expert. And that has, you can turn, there's a 1,000-watt stereo system in that building. You could, very high-end stuff. You could turn it up to you can't even stand in there and go outside, and 50 feet away you can't hear it. And I live 150 feet from that building. I live on the property. I don't think I want to be able to hear
So I think my question was going to be, did it ever work for its intended use? So I know it's picking up all these other sounds.
It-
Did,
yeah,
did,
it
did you
tends
ever,
to
did you ever get a notification that your event or
Yes, it tends to
venue
be
was too loud?
I mean, for everything.
Yeah.
Because it picks it up. And I'd like to make it so if we do run it in the summertime, that it's not so sensitive. Because it's not worth it for that. It's worth it if there's a rock band going there. But if you look at the permit too, I can't have, horns, or I can't have drums, or I can't have any of those percussion type things there, which really makes those things go crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I wouldn't be, having a problem with having it during the summer, but not all the time.
Sure.
Because in the winter, and then the music inside, if you're inside, you're inside. All these other guys are all outside in summertime with bands, and like I say, that music thing has really gotten crazy.
Sure. My next question is for Mr. Retzlaff. And I think it's the right direction for the question. In regards to a system like this, and Mr. Benke mentioned it, other venues don't have it, and I've been witness to plenty of those venues, and not plenty, but enough of those venues in front of here in regards to sound and neighbors and fighting back and forth of what's appropriate and how do we, right? Has this approach ever been taken or suggested outside of this one CUP?
No. I mean, originally the sound system was installed voluntarily
Yep.
by Mr.
I
Benke.
did it to prove a point.
And the village simply sort of converted his voluntaryism into a condition of requirement as back in 2022.
And then through kind of all those other discussions, and I know there was legal discussions involved. How do we monitor sound? What's the expertise of it? How can we cite or write a citation for all of that? And I kind of understand some of those issues more than I think some can. What were the findings of that? As far as the village's ability to affect a noise nuisance issue?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Russ, because we didn't employ any
so-
sort of thorough
No, I
analysis
think
or
the
study.
village never, my point is the village never came to a conclusion other than buying some sort of device to monitor sound actually is not a legally defensible option, given what would need to be brought in front of the courts.
Right, and we
So-
never
so-
adopted any specific standards other than a couple of industrial districts have a performance standard.
Correct. So the removal of this would align it more to the practice of the rest of the entities in the village, not, would that be a correct thought?
Well, I would agree, yes, not requiring this. I mean, but it comes back to, I guess if you want to base the decision on whether Mr. Benke wants to voluntarily install the system and use it or not, that's fine. That's what we did originally. So if Mr. Benke says, I don't want to use it anymore, then we go along with that. Frankly, I don't have a problem with that because it does align us more with the notion of what the current regulations are. But what I do know is that back in 2022, and even before, residents, and there are only a handful of them, have come and expressed their concern about the potential for noise. And as Mr. Benke pointed out, his own monitoring system is being triggered by the background noise and not necessarily by any events on the property. So, if Mr. Benke's willing to continue to voluntarily use it, I think we should take advantage of that at a minimum. At this point, staff's recommendation is to take it a step further, and that is make it a requirement since Mr. Benke originally installed it and keep it going.
I mean,
But,
we happy
but
to.
my question to that then is, why is the village administration making a recommendation outside the normal scope of any other CUP that's being operated in the village at this time that have brought in obsessive noise complaints?
Well, I don't know that we have any other CUPs or any businesses that are subject to a CUP that have a noise issue. We have noise issues with businesses in standard zoning districts that are operating by right, frankly. So this is a special circumstance. It's a conditional use permit, and it has the ability, the village has the ability to use this to fine tune and to create conditions that may be more stringent.
I think that's what I'm getting at. That's the point, right? There's a difference between some of the things he cited in regards to operations of some of these establishments that are in permitted places, right? And this, which is a CUP for special conditions in a non-traditional use for this site, right?
Correct.
So I think that's an important thing that needs to be understood. So why is there this extra or recommendation of an extra layer of this? It's because we took a rural portion of the village and now we're allowing an event venue to operate there. Outside of what we would see from some of the normal taverning districts. Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, you're on the right track. I mean, the one business that I do know of that is in a similar situation, and Mr. Benke has brought it up before, and that's the old Germantown business on Pleasant View. When they came forward for their conditional use permit, there wasn't the neighborhood reaction to the potential for noise as was experienced here. And I believe as a result of that, there was no recommendation for or adoption of any condition requiring there be a sound monitoring system. Now, going forward, if noise becomes an issue over there, it's quite frankly, we could use the condition number 3, which is sort of a standard language that says if things change since you originally got your permit, we have the ability to come back and modify the conditions of approval. We may very well do that and require them to address the sound issue in that particular case. But at this point, I am not aware of us, the village, the police department, receiving noise complaints concerning Old Germantown, nor the Appleworks Winery.
Thank you.
Further questions from Bridget?
Jeff, can you talk us through the outdoor music permit and what's required as part of that permit?
I could if it was issued through my department, but it's issued through the clerk's office, and they look for some basic information about what you're doing, what hours of operation, and issue a permit that has some conditions that if you violate the terms of the permit and the regulations, then you can have that permit removed and your ability to have outdoor music essentially invalidated and taken away.
Would you like to see it?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So where I was going with that line of questioning is we have had other businesses here with a lot of noise complaints and concerns, and I think that's what generated this permit process.
Correct.
Yeah, so what I wanted to check, and I'll actually read through this while I'm hoping some of my other plan commissioners ask their questions, was whether there was some restrictions on noise and hours of operation. Just trying to double check that what is in this permit application is consistent with what we're looking at for a CUP.
Understood. With the further understanding that, with the conditional use permit, you do have the ability to be more stringent.
Josh?
Mr. Benke, has there ever, have any of the neighbors ever come up to you with problems of noise or have they ever they haven't made it apparent to the village, right? Or at least we don't have any.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
We had one, well, they're not here, it's with Herschel's. We had music on a Friday night during the summer, outside at the tasting room. And we stopped playing usually, well, we could be open later than we usually play. So at 8 o'clock, it started winding down, and by 8:30, we were pretty much done playing. I got kind of a snarky, private Facebook messenger from the Kerschels that the music was too loud. We were already done playing. So that was the only time in 10 years I've had that property, that winery for 10 years, only time. And I'm being straightforward, I wouldn't have to tell you. But that was the only time I've ever had anybody say anything.
When they, and I don't know what, I'm not trying to dig too far into the past, but when
No, go ahead.
when all these people bought those properties, was there some letter or,
Well,
something signed saying that you'd never have
No.
a sound come off the
there was
property?
Never, nothing like that. Yeah, there was never anything The winery was in operation for a long time. One of the properties got sold now. About a year or so ago, one of the new neighbors, which I haven't met until tonight, bought a property, and I think that property sold for a substantial amount of money. So that the winery had no influence on the sale. And so many times people use that as a crutch, that, oh, your property value is gonna go down. People that buy over there, those are 5-acre lots, it's quiet, nobody's ever gonna build around you. It's pretty private back there, and a lot of people buy it because they wanna be by a winery.
Well, I guess I'm just having a hard time between the idea of the possibility of there being a complaint, or the fact that there has only been one complaint that we have documented. So that's where I'm hung up on it, but
And it's only because I told you about it, otherwise there's no documentation. Because I'm that type of guy, I'm straightforward.
Further questions for the applicant and their staff? Bob?
Thank you. Just some comments. So I spent some time researching. I talked to one of the neighbors. I talked to Mr. Benke. Total disclosure, I am not a wine drinker, so just so all of you know that, okay? So I think it'd be easier for me to go through these conditions, number 11, just so you understand how I feel I'm going to vote on this, and I'm going to vote in favor of this, but at least you'll understand why based on this. So one of them is this transferability, and for the life of me, I don't understand why this village would require siblings or whoever that they have to be the next owners of this property. Because I feel like anybody ever hear of black sheep, in a family? You never know what you're going to get. Okay. So I feel that our tool as a village is not to require that the property owner has to sell it to a sibling or whoever, but it's that if something goes awry with whoever buys this property in the future, we have things in place as far as noise ordinance or anything else where we can, impose restrictions and address it that way. I don't understand this transferability thing personally. I think we should get rid of that totally. As far as, let's see, condition 12, sales and service hard liquor. So, I think whenever anybody hears about hard liquor, right away they think about this wild bar scene, and there's a mosh pit and people are getting crazy drunk and all of this. This is not like this. It's not even in the tasting room. It's just in the venue. And, Wisconsin weddings have this thing. It's called, if you want to have some drinks, it's called an old fashioned. And I don't know if any of you have heard of the old fashions. And as Mr. Benke had talked about, when potential clients of his hear that that's not allowed in this venue, he loses them right away. And I think this is an unfair advantage that we are opposing on Mr. Benke. I'm not concerned about that because it's just during one of these venues. It's not during the whole in the tasting room or anything like that. So that goes away for me also. The other concern is indoor music hours. I'm not worried about the hours in that. And the noise always comes up, no matter where you go, no matter what issue in that. In my opinion, you've gone out of your way to address the noise issue. I don't know how much additional money you spent on putting noise canceling barriers within your venue in the remodeled barn, and putting up this noise thing to prove to the residents and to the village that this is canceling out the noises, and the neighbors don't even hear it. When I spoke with one of the neighbors on Saturday, it didn't seem, and this is just my impression, it didn't seem like noise was the big issue at all. It seems like you were successful in achieving that goal, with the monitoring, and you have data to prove that really the noise you're picking up is the background noise from the highway, tires and things like that, and trucks shifting gears and stuff. And it wasn't you. I'm through with that. I'm through with you having to test that. You proved to us that the the things that you put in place, the hours that you put in place are addressing the noise issue. I don't need you to put any more noise monitoring issues in to prove that to us. You've already had a good track record in that regard. One of the other concerns, though, that the neighbor presented was with the coffee shop being in the morning. That's kind of the peak time when the families, the neighbors are taking their children to daycare or to school. And the concern was that now that you've got a venue in the morning with the coffee shop, that traffic is going to be a concern because that's the same time that they want to be taking their children to school or daycare or whatever. I don't think you're going to, sorry to tell you this, but I don't think you're going to generate that much traffic in a coffee shop in the morning to create an impact on a county, on a highway that would disrupt them trying to get out of the driveway and that. So from that regard, and this is from a civil engineer's background, it's like, you're not going to get that kind of peak traffic from your coffee shop that's going to disrupt or impact people that are trying to leave a driveway further to the east. One thing that was mentioned, that the people that use their driveway, their private driveway, because they miss your driveway, they go into their street and turn around. And you know how it goes when you make a wrong turn. It's like, I'm going to get in here quick and get out of here quick. And that's a valid concern that they have. You know, they have kids there. And it's not you creating that problem, but it's a reality. And I think maybe one way, and I don't want you to spend money on my account, but one way that may help is to have a sign, maybe 20 feet, just past their driveway, like a decision point as you're heading westbound, that would say, Appleworks, continue straight. Just try to help out or try to mitigate that. So I don't know, I'm trying to look for balances here, but overall, I think you've done what you can, and I'm not here.
Signage is easy to do.
Right, yeah. You've done what you can, and you're, from what I'm hearing and what you're doing, I think you're really addressing our concerns. I don't hear noise as that really big of an issue. Traffic, I don't think that's an issue. We hear that every development, traffic is an issue, and it's not. It's not, but I get it. The perception is that it is. So from my perspective, I support this, and those are the reasons why.
Further questions for staff and or the applicant? Russ?
When we look to vote on this, are we going to take them one by one or as a whole?
I think I'm going to ask Commissioner Warren to make the motion, saying that he.
I would
being
echo just about everything Mr. Warren just said.
Okay.
In regards to the thought process behind consideration to each one of these items.
Yeah, and I'm going to address the elephant in the room, seeing that a constituent here shot over my bow, saying that I was somewhat unethical if I would participate in the voting on this. I am friends with the applicant. I'm a member of the wine club, and yes, I do drink his very, very, very good wine. And I would encourage everyone to have some grace and support businesses in Germantown. It's a wonderful business, and I will continue to do that. Saying that, I will recuse myself from the voting tonight. So, but I will entertain a motion. Are we done with all the questions of staff and the applicant?
65 doesn't.
No, we're done with that. That was a public hearing. I apologize, but.
Yeah.
So, would anybody like to entertain a motion? Or would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll be your second to this, because it's going to be a winding motion would be my guess on what you're going to include in that.
Well, just for clarification, I guess my motion would be to eliminate two of the items. One is the requirement for the noise monitoring. And what was my other concern?
Number condition alone.
Oh, the transferability. My motion would be to approve based upon all the conditions minus those two. That would be my motion.
And I would second that motion.
Do we have discussion relative to the motion?
Would the applicant be opposed to deploying that system, another type of that system, or something
No,
like it so that when something does arise, that there is some,
I would do it more to give you the information for somebody else.
well,
Because I'm
yeah, I
not
mean,
gonna probably produce anything.
I agree with trustee Warren on the transferability part, but I don't know, the noise monitoring seems to be I don't know what it costs,
It's
but
a-
it seems to be a
it's a-
small ask for
Yeah.
what they're asking.
I mean, I'll work with the new guys and get it installed and get you some data if you'd like. I mean, because you'll have a test bed to see how it really works. I don't have a problem with that.
I will
I
say,
don't know.
yeah.
I don't know how it works either, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's important to them and
Yeah,
it's important,
Just the guy, just
Seemed
give me a
beneficial
little
to-
leeway to work with that so I can set it up for the next summer here coming forward. And get some data, and if you guys want to use it for some other place in the village, I don't have a problem with it.
I wouldn't make it a requirement of the conditional use permit. I would just eliminate it, and he's been pretty good about going out of his way to try to prove that he is adhering to noise levels or hours of operation or whatever. Again, I would not include that as part of a conditional use permit.
Yeah, I think we're at a decision on a business that's been successful and it's gonna grow. And it needs to grow to continue that success. And I would agree on the event hosting side, if you're going to do that from a logical business standpoint, not to be able to offer hard spirits is gonna, you've already showed the data or explained the data, I should say.
Well, the other
That,
concern I
that's
have,
handicapping, but you've also brought forward for your information you're providing us, the stuff that trips the audio. It has nothing to do with your event venue. It's continuously the outside atmospheres, traffic and whatnot.
And actually, I had a sound engineer when I first got denied for this whole thing, come from Milwaukee and do a very lengthy report for the village. It was 11 pages long, and he put up sound equipment in the building, on the lot line, everywhere. And he proved that there was only background noise and nothing coming from the winery. But that report was pretty much just not even looked at.
and why there, Jeff, are we requiring this of any other business in the village of Germantown?
Sound system, no.
Yeah, why are we picking on Appleworks?
We're not. We're taking advantage initially of Mr. Benke
Right.
voluntarily setting up a system
Okay.
that can be used both ways,
I get
right?
that, but
If
that
somebody
costs-
complains to the village and says it's too noisy, and Mr. Benke has data that says it's only been 55 decibels, then we walk away and there's no enforcement action.
I get that. That's why I want let him do that at his discretion without us requiring him to do it as part of the conditional use
Put
permit.
that on there, I'll take care of it for you.
I understand.
Further discussion.
I'm okay with the noise, but I won't support the removal of condition 11. What I keep hearing, and I don't understand why people are understanding the wording this way. Nobody is restricting your ability to sell your company. What we're restricting is you to transfer a conditional use permit that the village approves for your business to another business. If that other business who wants to come in and buy your business will put a contingency that says, I'm only going to close on this purchase if the village will approve the CUP under the terms and conditions I want a CUP on. That gives the buyer an opportunity to come in from the village and say, I want a CUP for the same location to run the same type of business. It's going to be issued to me, not to the current business. And these are the terms and conditions I want. Since it's a conditional use permit that the village has to approve, that allows the village to approve it as opposed to you selling it to whoever you want. The village has no idea who that is. And we have to live with the conditions of the conditional use permit that could have been issued 50 years ago. But as long as we're going to let it continue in perpetuity on the property, we never have to review it. It could be owned by 5 different people and we still have the same conditions. So it's not restricting your ability to sell your business. It's not restricting you. It's restricting you to transfer the CUP that the village has approved after review of a planning commission. So well, it's not the business because they can come in and get their own CUP. They're not going to buy that without knowing upfront that they're going to get a CUP approved from the village. So they're going to submit their application to the village. The village is going to review that conditional use permit application, and if they approve their CUP, they're going to buy the business. So it's not restricting your ability to sell the business. It's just restricting your ability to transfer the CUP to anybody.
Russ?
So fully understanding those concerns, Bob. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the situation playing around just outside our community off a county line with a certain large pumpkin farm that started as a pumpkin farm, went to a corn maze, and then now is a full-blown amusement park just about. The owners of that, and the owners why I'm aware of the situation is they're members of our Chamber of Commerce, but the owners of that property are simply trying to enter it into a trust for their children who have been actively managing the property. That village is currently in a fairly large divide and split because the transfer of that to that trust is forcing them to re-review this. And there's certain people on that board that are acting, would be accused in poor faith or bad faith as far as that approval goes, just from a familial transfer. So they're having a hard time even being able to transfer it and simply continue the business as it is operated and grown. So if we place something in here that would restrict that, and it sounds like maybe his family's not even, I'm just taking that logic. It's
Yeah,
not a
no,
one-on-one
you're
comparison.
absolutely Right.
Um,
Because we set up trusts and stuff in the last few years, and that came up in one of my discussions.
yeah.
But that's.
That's a very common thing.
If part of their board members are acting in bad faith transferring it, I'm under the premise that if a buyer of your business were to come in here and submit an application for a CUP to operate a very similar business to you, I'm under the assumption that if we approved it for you, the village plan commission and board is going to approve it for a buyer. Well,
Just
A
a
very
point of order.
but
Very
Point of
expensive.
order.
Here, we're having a discussion. Russ?
No.
Okay, Bridget.
So I think we should split this question for really two reasons. One, that I feel like we are divided on both of them. I do like the fact that you are offering, and it sounds like you're offering, to do some sound monitoring to help with that good faith neighborly things. That only goes so far, but I think it does take a step in that right direction because this is a pretty significant change in how you're doing your property. There's a lot of things that are moving here. So having a new baseline of where the sound is certainly going to go a long way. I do agree that we shouldn't make a condition if it's not been a condition for other similar properties. But I do think that good faith goes a very long way when it comes to the neighbors. As for condition 11, I think it should come back to us if the property owner changes hands, because whether it is a family member or someone else, there are a lot of very specific conditions here based on how you are managing the property, and you've given us that assurance that you are going to follow these conditions. If somebody comes in and they want to operate the business in the same way that you have, there shouldn't be any animosity
Can't
or.
they just sign something with the village and not have a?
And I
sort of
believe that
deal?
was some of the proposed language options
Right.
with
mean,
number
Yeah,
11.
The proposed amendments to number 11 really water down the previous restriction. Obviously, the previous restriction was you can only sell to a family member, right? This again reads that conditional use permit shall be transferable, provided any change in the operator and or property owner is reported to the Community Development Department, along with any proposed changes to the operation, permitted uses, activities, et cetera, and extent of the operation on the property. In the event there are any changes, village staff shall work cooperatively with the new owner operator to evaluate the need to enforce condition number 3. Condition number 3, I should go ahead and read that. In CUP number 5-22 reads, if the use, activities, and or operation subject to this permit falls out of conformity with the conditions herein, or where there is a change in the nature, character, intensity, or extent of the permitted conditional uses and activities which cause special problems or harmful effects associated with the permitted uses that were not revealed or anticipated at the time the CUP was granted, or, this is written by an attorney, where conditions imposed by the CUP that were anticipated to mitigate or eliminate harmful effects associated with the uses and activities, but are subsequently insufficient to do so, or for similar cause based upon consideration for the public comfort, safety, and welfare, this conditional use permit may be terminated or modified by the village board by the amendment to or addition of conditions after public hearing thereon. This is a condition. I think this one is probably the only one that appears in every CUP that we've issued since 2006. At the behest of the then attorney for the village, that basically locks in, according to him, our ability to bring somebody back for review of their CUP if the things that are occurring on their property are different, or if they're the same activities, but they result in more harmful effects than were originally thought. They can come back, review it, terminate it, or change the conditions. That's condition number 3. So the changes to a number 11 simply kind of redirect any new owner to condition number 3 to work with the village and discuss what those changes might be.
I mean, if he doesn't agree to running it the way I've been running it, he's got a problem.
Okay, further comments. And I believe, Bridget, you want to split the motion, and we do have a, trustee Ward? Okay. We do have a motion and a second. So we're gonna pull out number 1, conditional 11. So we're gonna go with the conditions 12, 16, 17, 18. No, we're not gonna allow the noise monitoring. I believe that you struck that, correct?
11 and 18 were pulled.
11, 18 will pull. No, I think we're gonna keep 18 in.
What's 18?
18's
The
the
noise monitoring.
sound monitoring.
Oh, I'm against
The
that.
motion is everything excluding 8, 11, and 18. So we can handle that and then address 11 and 18.
Bridget, was that what your request? Okay.
So I would assume we can still handle it individually.
My request was to split 11 and 18.
That's fine. We'll do that. So further discussion.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this amendment relative to the staff recommendations in the staff report, numbers 1 through 7?
It is. We're going to pull out 1, which is condition 11,
Okay,
and number 5,
number
condition
5.
18, and we'll vote on that separately.
okay.
Just had a question for our director.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Mr. Retzloff, in regards to this transferring to next of kin in that, are we saying that we cannot enforce our codes in that unless there is this requirement that it has to be next of kin?
No. No, condition number 3 still exists in the existing
So
permit.
that's why, that's the basis of my argument is like, why do we even have it?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. We're pulling out number 11 and 18. Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And 1 abstention. That motion carries. We're now on to item 11, or number 1 in the packet on condition 11. Conditional use permit shall be transferable. And from my understanding, we do not need a second or a motion and a second because we did that prior to splitting. So do we have discussion specific to condition number 11?
I just want to clarify that we'd be voting on the language proposed in the staff recommendation for
Correct.
number 11.
So the vote would be in
Good.
favor of transfer?
It has to be in favor.
Correct.
And no, the motion excluded 11 and 18, so I think we need a new motion and second regarding 11, and then we can do it on 18.
Say that again?
I think we need to address 11 and 18 with a motion and a
Separately.
second,
Okay,
because they were not included in the original
Right.
motion.
okay. So we entertain a motion on condition 11.
Which is number 1 in the staff report.
I would make a motion to eliminate that requirement in the conditional use permit.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have discussion?
Yes, I will answer the question as to why we need it. It's simply to put the new operator on notice that they need to come and talk to the village. Right now, there's nothing in there that says that they have to do that.
Don't they know that with knowledge of a conditional use permit that they're purchasing the property? If they want to deviate from that, they would talk to the village.
Well, you know what? We've had a lot of things go on these days and it seems that some things that are fairly obvious as to what needs to be done don't actually happen.
And I would agree with that.
I don't know if
would
this
agree
is a
with that.
guarantee that you're still going to get people to come, but anyway, okay.
So we got a motion to eliminate number 11. We have a second. We have further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstain. So that motion fails. So conditional number 11 remains.
No, we got to vote on that.
No, that's transferable.
Staff
Transferables alone.
recommended condition 1 pertains to condition 11, the transferability clause.
I make a motion to approve condition 11 as written in the staff recommendation.
We have a second. Discussion. Say none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oh,
Aye.
I'm sorry. I'm not voting. So show of hands, please. 3. Any opposed? That motion carries 3, 2, and 1. We are now on to 18, which is number 5 in the packet. And that is eliminating the requirement for sound monitoring. Entertain a motion on that. Or not eliminating, but requiring a sound monitoring and notification system.
Make a motion to eliminate that requirement.
Second.
We have discussion. Say none. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? One opposed?
No, I just raised.
That
my hand.
motion carries. And I believe we're done.
And Mr. President, you abstained on
I
the
did.
votes just, okay.
Yes.
So just to clarify, we're gonna eliminate the sound monitor, but I'm gonna take care of that anyhow. And we're gonna change the verbiage on number 11, number 1, and the rest of the stuff has all been approved.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Okay. thank you.
Okay. We're now moving on to item B, Peter and Donna, and I'm not going to pronounce this correctly. Manasauchi. Ooh.
Jeff Alpha.
Maniaci. Property owners, conditional use permit, application to convert, expand an existing detached accessory structure, garage into a mother-in-law suite, accessory dwelling unit, and modify the provisions under section 17.0864 of the zoning code for property located at W213N 11111 Appleton Avenue. And this will also include a public hearing as well. Gordon.
All right, thanks, Mr. President.
Job.
As you mentioned, this is a conditional use permit application on behalf of Peter and Donna Maniaci for, for a conversion expansion of a detached accessory structure, currently being a garage on the property located on site, which is 6.5 acres in the RS1 Single Family Residential District off of Appleton Avenue. Couple aerial property images just to give you, they were included in the packet, but just to show you the subject structure, the garage that's being proposed for the conversion expansion shown on screen with the principal dwelling adjacent to it. Little background on the property, as I mentioned, it's 6.5 acres, zoned RS1 Single Family Residential District. The existing principal dwelling is roughly 3,000 square feet. There are two detached accessory structures and a private pond existing on the property. The proposed MILS or mother-in-law suite accessory dwelling is for one of the detached structures, which I mentioned a conversion expansion of it, from the garage into a second dwelling unit on the property, roughly at 2,590 square feet. According to the building plans, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, kitchen, and a great room would be included in the MILS, and it would be served by separate utilities, and it would be used by, according to the applicant, the owner's son, Justin. Site plan on screen, so with the existing structure shown there with the proposed addition, the structure currently is roughly 24 feet in height, and the addition is 2-story, technically speaking, with it going towards the rear property line. building plans that were included in the packet, floor plan, the main floor plan and the second floor plan with that addition on the top screen on each drawing. And the proposed elevations here showing the existing portion of the structure with the addition going towards the rear property line. Staff comments on it, as we indicated in the packet, a single-family dwelling may include a mother-in-law suite provided it meets the minimum requirements established under the zoning code section 17.0864 of the zoning code. Primary limitations on a MILS or a mother-in-law suite under the zoning code is really that it cannot constitute a separate dwelling from the principal dwelling. And a little bit of background, the mother-in-law suite code provisions as written right now were adopted in 2008. The intent under the provisions is to grant property owners the ability to create essentially a designated living area for family members that would be within the principal dwelling. So act as a separate living space, but actually not technically a separate dwelling by legal terminology. So as part of this CUP application, I should say, Pete and Donna do understand that the detached MILS proposal does not meet certain requirements under the MILS code, given the fact that it's detached, right? So it will be a second or separate dwelling unit technically on the property. And with that, as part of the CUP application, the property owners are requesting the Plan Commission and Village Board to remove or delete, modify, however you look at it, a number of criteria under the MILS provisions within the zoning code. I'm not going to read through it. It's a lot of words on the screen. We can come back to it if we need to, but in the staff report, we did mention the certain limitations or restrictions that wouldn't be met given the fact that the proposed mother-in-law suite is detached, and those would be A, B, C, E, and F. And I think it is important to mention, in speaking with the property owners and getting it to this point through the conditional use permit application, you know, when they were looking at a second dwelling or a separate dwelling on the property for the purposes, as they mentioned in their narrative, there really aren't other alternatives under the zoning code or for applications to, let's say, divide the property and or rezone the property, and the code does not allow for a use variance. So point being is, given the property size, the zoning designation, and lack of utilities under the 2050 comp plan with the max density that's allowed, there really isn't a feasible alternative to propose from the owners for their second dwelling unit on the property. And under the proposed MILS staff with a review of the property, pictures were included in the staff report with a number of other aerial images. It is important to mention that, you know, staff doesn't find any indication of adverse impacts on the surrounding area with the detached mother-in-law suite proposal versus, let's say, under the traditional code requirements, as you see. And it's also quite possible with reviewing the property and talking to the owners that it really is the most feasible location, given the physical constraints of the property around the dwelling, to add that additional living space for their son and his family. So finally, converted, expanded, detached MILS must comply with the Uniform Dwelling Code under State of Wisconsin and Village of Germantown requirements, and the owners would be required to obtain all necessary well and septic permits from Washington County prior to recording of the CUP and issuance of building permits from our Inspection Services Department. So with that, ultimately, the staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit for the detached mother-in-law suite for the conversion expansion of the existing detached garage on the property, with those modifications to the standard list of restrictions under section 17.0864 of the zoning code. So with that, we can get into some initial questions. Otherwise, the owners are here as well, and we can get into public hearing if you'd like. Up to you.
Yeah, I think we'll follow what we did for the Mr. Beneke. We'll just do public hearing, and then we'll have questions for staff and the applicant. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the Village of Germantown Plan Commission at the Germantown Village Hall located at N112W17001 Mequon Road, Germantown, Wisconsin, and virtually through the WebEx platform on the following date and at the time noted below, Monday, March 9, 2026, 6:30 PM or later. The purpose of said hearing is to hear all parties, their attorneys or agents for or against a conditional use permit application for a mother-in-law suite from the property located below pursuant to section 17.0864 and section 17.42 of the Village Zoning Code. Applicant Donna and Peter Menacci, sorry. Property owners, property address W213N11111 Appleton Avenue. We are now in the public hearing. Would anybody like to come forward either for or against? Do we have anyone on WebEx, either for or against? This public hearing is closed at 8:11. Questions for staff and the applicant from the commissioners? Seeing none? Oh, Josh?
I just wanted to ask Jordan or Jeff, as far as the state legislation goes, that's the Senate Bill 473 that has nothing to do with this now because it's not active now, right?
Correct. Jeff
Called
can,
out.
oh, yeah, Jeff can dovetail off of me if he wants, but what we wanted to do is call out that there was legislation being discussed this past session. Currently, to answer your question, it does not impact this proposal. What we want to do is put the Plan Commission on notice or be aware that there is legislation at the state
Is
level.
that exactly is this exactly what that legislation would allow?
Very likely.
Yeah, it's not confirmed as we would have to adopt our own ordinance with a certain set of restrictions, but.
That's all, just curious.
Further questions of staff and or the applicant? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve with the conditions listed in the agenda.
Second.
Do we have discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now moving on to item C. Vertus Development LLC, agent for District 1 LLC, property owner W140 N10363 Fond du Lac Avenue. Site plan application for a 4-unit multifamily townhouse and a 33-stall parking lot. And this will be action. Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Back in 2018, the Kuberg Plan Development District was created for property in the southwest quadrant of the Donjas Bay at Fond du Lac Avenue intersection to encourage redevelopment of 2 structures, the old schoolhouse at the corner and the Gamroth's Junction Tavern immediately to the south of it. The renovations to the schoolhouse were completed in the early, I believe, 2021-ish. The tavern renovations are under construction as we speak. In 2023, the PDD was amended to expand the boundary to add 2 parcels to the south for further redevelopment. Those parcels are highlighted in red on the screen. And the development proposed at that time was for a 33-stall parking lot for that would serve the restaurant and the coffee house, a 4-unit multifamily townhouse, and a stormwater management basin that would serve all of that development. Over the course of the year from 2023 to 2024, construction was on hold. The approvals that were granted in 2023 were ultimately extended an additional 12 months prior to the expiration. So the approvals extended from November of 2024 through November of 2025. Again, through the year 2025, construction was on hold, and those approvals did expire on November 15th of 2025. So we're here this evening to approve the site plan application with effectively the same set of plans that was originally approved back as far as 2023. The general development plan that was adopted in 2023 is shown on the screen here. That includes the parking lot and the townhouse development. The current proposal is for site development and building plans, again, for a 33 stall parking lot, a 4-unit multifamily townhouse, whether it be for rental or for sale has yet to be determined, a stormwater management basin. Again, the plans are the same or very similar to those as approved in 2023 and again, reapproved in 2024. But as I mentioned, this is a new application because these approvals, the previous approvals have expired. The development timeframe, the latest update is for the restaurant that again is currently under construction to be completed in the summer of this year, with townhouse construction to start up 60 days after site plan approval, with completion expected in the spring of 2027, approximately 12 months later. The proposed site plan for the parking lot and townhouse and stormwater basin are shown here. Some detail on the parking lot, detail on the townhouse area of the property, and the stormwater basin. If need be, we can refer to these as we discuss. The proposed landscape plan with this site plan packet is the same as what was previously approved. And I'll run through proposed 4-unit townhouse renderings. This view from the says southwest, this view from the northwest, and the view from the northeast, the front side facing Fond du Lac Avenue. We got the proposed elevations. Again, we can look at these more closely if need be as we go forward. As I mentioned, the previous site plan approvals expired in November of 2025. This PC review is not a reapproval technically, but a fresh review of the site plan application with the same or similar set of plans. The proposed parking lot and townhouse are consistent with the planned development district general development plan and also consistent with the 2050 plan land use and density parameters for the Victory Center corridor. The 2050 plan allows multifamily uses up to 10 dwelling units per acre. This proposal for 4 dwelling units on 3/4 of an acre equals a density of 5.4 dwelling units per acre. And under the RM1 zoning for the property allows a max density of 6 dwelling units per acre. So the proposal is for a lot less number of units for the property under the density allowances that currently apply to the property. One of staff's comments was there's a slight change in some of the features shown on the south elevation of the townhouse unit. Staff is recommending that some sort of further feature be added to that south elevation to enhance it slightly, ideally to match the elevation on the north elevation. The townhouse concept, as you probably are aware, is a fairly trendy development type in a lot of communities these days. I think we started off, maybe we started the trend when we approved this back in 2023. Development hopefully will be done by 2027, and we'll be able to add Germantown to the list of communities that have this type of development to it. A couple of photographs of other townhouse projects in other communities throughout Wisconsin. In terms of our Germantown housing balance, the multifamily to single family ratio, let's just cut to the chase. The 4 multifamily units proposed as part of the development are not going to significantly alter the ratio. It's currently at approximately 75% single family to 25% multifamily. In terms of financial impact, we did not get any data provided by the developer with regard to the value of the units or the rentals, if there are rental units, to calculate any estimated annual property taxes. Impact fees will generate approximately $34,000 for the 4 units for the various impact fee categories for the village. And in terms of school district impact, this development is in attendance area number 59 that serves County Line Elementary. At a student rate of 0.11 students per multifamily unit would yield approximately 1 student from the development. Under the 2025 MD Rofers report, the assumption was there would be a total of 4 multifamily units in Area 59 by 2040. The same 4 units we're talking about here. So the 4-unit Vertus project was already reflected in or incorporated in the MD Rofers student enrollment projections and their capacity implications that the County Line and the other schools serving this particular area are under capacity through 2040. In terms of additional staff comments, Public Works, the village engineer had a February 16th, 2026 review memo with some engineering and utility plan corrections that'll need to be addressed prior to issuing building permits. And Inspection Services identified their standard DSPS approval required, and a $20,000 occupancy bond required before building permit can be issued for the project. The staff recommendation is to approve the site development and building plans for a 33-stall commercial parking lot and 4-unit multifamily townhouse building located in the Kuberg Plan Development District as proposed, subject to 12 conditions. And unless otherwise noted in the conditions in the staff recommendation, these are essentially the same list of conditions that were adopted by the PC back in November of 2024, but updated to reflect the current staff's report and recommendation. And I would point out condition number 8 resets the expiration date, if you will, for the site plan approval to March 10th of 2027. Assuming it is approved this evening. And with that, I know Greg Nagel is here in the audience. Greg, if you want to say some things, you're certainly welcome to come forward. With that,
Thank you.
we're done.
And in the spirit of transparency, I did have a cup of hot chocolate at Coffee House today, but I'm not conflicted.
Someone's gonna bring a picture of
I'm not conflicted. So, and I will be voting on this. So, welcome. Yeah.
Yep. Now it's on? Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to, give a little background. Obviously, we've been trying to get this project done for a number of years. One of the biggest challenges, the 2 biggest challenges have been environmental issues on the site, both sites, and obviously financing, and financing is impacted by the environmental issues. So, it took us working with the county brownfield program about almost 16 months to get through the phase 2, the additional testing, and the remedial action plan, get that to the state and get the state's response on that. Just, there was nothing we could do. We were continually poking the county folks who were being very gracious and helping us and sharing the cost for all that work, and also working, kind of continuing to push the environmental engineer, which was Stantec. So that was concluded in March of last year, after which we applied for a state brownfield grant and were given that. That took several months as well. But in the process, we lost our financing. The bank that was set to finance, we were supposed to close, found out about the remedial action plan and subsequently dropped the financing package. So we were on the street looking for a new bank. We found a community, a Wisconsin, a small community bank out of central Wisconsin that was willing to do the deal for us, and then started working with them in early summer, got approvals in late fall, and then because it's an SBA loan, we were impacted by the shutdown. So we had to wait, like everybody else, to submit our final packet to SBA, which is part of what resulted in us going over the time limit here on the site plan approval, and needing to come back tonight. So we did close on the loan, obviously, for the restaurant. That's underway, moving along well. And so we're looking for approval on this. What I would ask is if particularly items like number 12 that are asking for another plan commission look at the project, I would ask that anything that is requested be a staff level review and not a plan commission issue that needs to be resolved. We've brought this thing before. We've talked about the design of the building. We've gone through state plan review. We've got, state approved plans. And so if someone wants to change paint colors on the building or add a window, I think those are minor issues we can talk about. As long as they're not significant cost impacts, I think those are things we can entertain, but I think that's stuff that can be done at a staff level. And I don't want to have to, I don't mind all of you guys, but I don't want to have to come back here in a couple months again and talk about the project one more time. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm very excited for this project to move forward, and I do want to thank the applicant for being very accommodating to our requests. I know we had some concerns relative to the site and unsightly of the site, and you were very gracious. You cleaned up the site, so thank you for that. So I'm looking forward to that corner developing out. So questions for the applicant and or for staff? Bridget.
You said you had a phase 2 environmental done and everything was fully remediated. Is all that, could you expand on that for me, please?
The environmental is not yet remediated. That'll be done through the course of the work. So the environmental impacts are on the two sites that are associated with this approval tonight. So there was a gas station right next to the tavern, a two pump gas station that was taken down in the 70s or 80s. And it was never properly remediated. When the DOT did the expansion and realignment of the road, they pulled the tanks because they were in the right of way, but they never closed the site. So it appeared closed on the EPA site, but the state had it as inconclusive, and we found out that they pulled the tanks and didn't do anything. Was never closed. And so testing was done on that, and there are still petroleum impacts in that area, right in the front of the site. The other area for the townhomes it's an empty site, but the previous owner dumped bad fill on that site, which after we started looking at the phase 1, there was rubble in the phase 1, when on site, you could literally see broken concrete block, some 55-gallon drums that had been there. So that led to further testing, and they found out that there's some environmental impacts related to the bad fill that was brought in on the site. So that's all part of this cleanup. We have the brownfield grant associated with this, but we haven't started that work because we can't until we get both this approval and the financing closed, and then we can start work. So
Where my question was going is anytime there's a stormwater pond and there's water on top of it, seepage is usually a question that will come up of, is there any impact for that material that's still present with your stormwater pond? And it sounds like it will be remediated before your pond is in place, so there is no risk to our water table.
correct. It'll be remediated, and obviously the stormwater pond has, a full clay liner. Everything should be, I believe, full clay, and I believe I can't remember if there's a membrane involved with it, but it should be.
I didn't see a membrane on there, but I did see the 2 foot of clay, which is typical for an application like this.
So, yeah. So I think it should all be remediated. There shouldn't be any environmental impacts to the community. So.
Further questions for
Trying
staff?
to clean up something that was left for me, so I'm trying to do the best.
Further questions for staff or the applicant? Bob.
Okay, tell me about this restaurant. What are you calling it?
It's called Tish.
No, it's, we had a definition for this type of restaurant.
Oh, previously we referred to, I think, a term you used, gastropub. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that doesn't sound inviting to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, it doesn't. No, that's the type of restaurant, but yeah, that's not.
Really?
It's trendy, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob, you'll like it.
I'm sorry. I'm not in that. Okay. So the question I had though is,
Full layers above.
As far as the renderings and that, Jeff, are we already through that process? We're done talking about renderings and what it looks like and because I personally, I'm not really excited the way it looks. Looks too vertical. It looks the same, looks the same, looks the same, looks the same. The back doesn't,
Are we talking the restaurant or the town?
no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about these. Yeah, these here.
Okay.
And, above your garage doors, you've got a patio. It's like, okay, whatever. So are we, any further input on that or?
We're at that point. I mean, technically, we're at that point. Now, granted, we've already, we looked, the plan commission collectively looked at this same plan. It was a different color at the time. It was, I think, a shade of yellow or something, and tan. And you approved the architecture and the materials. There were a few more windows on the south elevation under the old plan than what's under the current one. But for all intents and purposes, it was essentially the same building that was previously approved.
I guess there's only so much you can do in that area. I mean, I'm all excited to get that developed. It's been sitting there fallow for who knows how long in that. So, just my opinion. Thank you.
The windows were changed just as a result of some changes in the kitchens and the bathrooms that are on that side of the building. So I'm not adverse to looking at the window locations or looking at, as Jeff suggested, could we do some kind of a bay or some little feature just to pull that out and create a little bit more interest on that side?
I don't know what you can do.
I'm not adverse to that.
I'm not an architect.
I think we could do that at a staff level and not have to bring that back here.
I think the general shape is it's just so vertical and narrow, so you're stuck with that, no matter what you do with the windows and stuff.
Can
So
you show the other renderings of other townhomes?
These,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's a little different. You got a little different things going on there, so. The top left, well, the same roof lines as what you're proposing, but I don't know. I say it's not my area of expertise, but just something that caught my eye, so.
Bridget.
The spacing of the windows bothers my eyes. So on the front, that the windows are not like centered. They're skewed to one edge. I would prefer to see them centered, but that's just my engineer brain that can't handle things being not symmetrical.
where do you see that?
Right up against the edge of the frame.
Oh,
Where?
It does have two doors. Thank you very.
Right there?
right there.
Yeah, you look at,
On the far right? Or, yeah, I should.
well, all of them are scoot next to the border.
What,
Oh, it's not supposed, yeah, it's not supposed to be. That's supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
it's not?
Generate
It's
interest.
not supposed to be, the window on the side piece is not supposed to be centered.
That's supposed to be centered or should be?
No,
not.
it's not supposed to
I
be
think it
centered.
generates interest. So.
It's part of the composition of the elevation. It's just, that's.
Okay.
Part of what happens is that if you start doing, everything is symmetrical,
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a group of 4 units. What it does is begins to look like potentially 8 units. Like you've got big, small, like you've almost got a separate small unit in between. By bringing the window over to one side, it brings it into composition better that way and really shows it as 4 separate units. Just by little it moves like that, sometimes you'd be surprised at how much effect that can have on how people read things. So that's the thought behind it. It's been looked at and composed that way. So
Further questions for staff and the applicant?
When Bob Warren makes his motion, is Jeff okay with it? Just
I
going
got to
to
get these
staff?
engineers apparently involved in the design.
And my question would be that too. I know you have that as a recommendation for staff, but on item 12, would you be agreeable to working with the applicant? And then if there's not alignment, do you escalate to plan commission?
Certainly we can try and work it out at the staff level.
Yeah. And then if you can't, you come back to us.
Sure.
We okay with that?
Yeah, I would be supportive of that. So my first, when I saw this back on the docket, my first question is this a developer problem or what's going on that this whole site feels like it's been going on? And I think it has, and probably even longer feel for you, how long this project has taken. And you answered it, it's not a developer's problem. It's a site issue and a bureaucratic issue and problem.
Yeah, I never thought it was going to take this long to get this done. COVID blew up the project the first time. It was the restaurant and the cafe were supposed to be done together.
Yep.
And we had financing in flux at that time and it blew up. So we got the cafe done. I let the tavern continue to run for a few years, tried to find another time to bring it back.
I understand that. So to President's question, yes, I'm perfectly fine with helping this person who's persevered through what seems to be an interesting developmental timeframe map, whatever you want to look at it. And if that can simply push this project along that much, 1 month faster for him, maybe, let's.
Well, he's not only a veteran, he's also a resident of the village of Germantown, which I think is great.
Yeah.
So
I was just interested, so do you guys, will you own the restaurant and the townhouse? How does this all work?
Yeah, we will own both properties. Yeah. The commercial property with the restaurant and cafe and the townhomes. The townhomes are platted individually.
Okay.
As well. So as a good civil engineer, you understand, then that'll allow us basically, if we want to sell them, we can sell them off individually as single family.
Okay.
further
He's a
questions?
veteran?
Yes.
You're a veteran?
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Further questions of the applicant?
My question is actually for Director Retzloff. Do you need more information from us on what we're looking for number 12?
Yeah, I was thinking, the last line in number 12, we replaced plan commission with staff review. So it would read, and submitted for staff review and approval. And if you wanted to add, unless staff feels the need to elevate it to the plan commission for review or something like that. Is that what you're thinking?
Yep.
Yeah.
Entertain a motion.
Motion as stated.
There you go.
How simple was that?
Second.
Discussion.
Oh, Bob, it wasn't that hard, was it?
Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We are now on to item D. Karen Dodge, agent for MGAC Properties LLC, property owner, Germantown Animal Hospital, N112W16017 Mequon Road. Sign application for monument signage.
Make motion to approve?
A second?
Second.
Bridget, I think, okay. Discussion, say none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item E, Village of Germantown Community Development Department proposed text amendments to section 14 building and section 17 zoning of the Village of Germantown Municipal Code. And this is a public hearing along with action.
Thank you, Mr. President. Staff is proposing 6 amendments to portions of the building and zoning codes. These are what I would consider to be relatively minor text amendments to address issues that we've encountered either at a staff level or including at the Plan Commission level over the last year. Amendment number 1 clarifies language regarding property record maintenance fees in the building code. Those fees are collected at the time a building permit is issued for construction. That requires the village assessor to go out and assess the value of that construction. Right now, there's a table with some fees that are set in the code. What we want to do is modify the language slightly and take that table out and simply indicate that the fees will be established by resolution by the village board. And that's consistent with how we've been setting fees for quite some time now. Amendment number 2, also to the building code, clarifies language regarding the period of time for which a building permit is valid, in this case 12 months, and how the building inspector can reissue an expired permit if the work authorized was started but not completed after 12 months. that being with the payment of a reissuance fee equal to 50% of the original permit fee. Amendment number 3 clarifies language in the building code for the requirements of an occupancy bond and expands the requirement to apply to all non-residential structures, not just commercial and industrial as it currently reads. The amendment also removes the fixed $20,000 occupancy bond amount from the code and provides for the amount to be established by resolution by the village board. It's anticipated that this code amendment would go to the board, and we'd also have a resolution that sets what those occupancy bond amounts will be. The intention is to have sort of a fee for each type of use based on the type and extent of the construction. Because sometimes we have relatively small projects that don't warrant a full $20,000 bond. And we're looking to sort of adjust that downwards under certain circumstances. Amendment number 4 is to the zoning code, and it clarifies language for fences on residential property along US 41 to allow fences in the side and rear yard to be increased in height from a maximum of 6 feet up to 10 feet. Amendment number 5, also to the zoning code, clarifies language regarding the allowance for and calculation of the maximum height and sign area for monument signs on property affected by differences in elevation between the property and the adjacent roadway. We dealt with this just in the last month or so, dealing with the truck country signage, given the difference between the elevation of the road and the property. This language modifies the criteria the Plan Commission must evaluate when determining if and when a taller and larger monument sign may be allowed under certain circumstances. Specifically, it expands the zoning districts within which a property can be located in order for the owner to request a taller or larger monument sign. Currently, it just simply reads B5 highway business. If you're not in highway business, you can't propose a larger, taller sign. This amendment expands that to include all business and industrial zoning districts. And it also deletes the criteria that a business on a property must be intended to serve and economically dependent upon highway traffic along US 41. Finally, amendment number 6, also to the zoning code, adds 3 land uses to section 17.333. That's under the list of conditional uses allowed in the M1 Limited Industrial District. These 3 additional uses include construction contracting offices and shops with fully enclosed interior storage and outdoor storage areas that are visually screened, sports and physical fitness performance training facilities, and animal training and daycare services. We have a number of buildings in our industrial park that are multi-tenant type buildings that many of them have these uses already in there that we've had to kind of manipulate and look past certain provisions in the code to allow them to take place. Principally, we get a lot of stuff that property owners, they don't notify their new tenants that they need to come to the village to find out if what they want to do is compliant with the zoning code. They just move in, and it's not until either the fire department on their twice-a-year inspections uncovers a new use and notifies village staff, and we have to go down that road. This language is trying to clean up some of the uses that currently are in our industrial areas and establish a firmer process for how they can be approved. It also creates subsection number 7 that contains specific requirements for outdoor storage screening and buffering requirements that are to be enforced by the Plan Commission through the site plan review process. All 6 of the amendments are recommended for approval, obviously by staff as proposed. And answer any questions you have.
Questions for staff, then we'll go into public hearing. Okay, I do want to thank you for amendment number 4. That request came to me from a resident who lives on US 41 because of noise concerns relative to Wisconsin DOT and or Washington County doing some abatement of vegetation, trees and so forth. And a simple solution was just increasing the height of the fence. So I want to thank you for putting that in there. So we're going to go into public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the Village of Germantown Plan Commission at the Germantown Village Hall located at N112 W17001 Mequon Road, Germantown, Wisconsin, and virtually through the WebEx platform on the following date and at the time noted below, Monday, March 9, 2026, 6:30 PM or later. The purpose of said hearing will be to hear all parties or attorneys or agents for or against an application by the Village of Germantown Community Development Department for proposed tax amendments to number 1, Section 14 of the Germantown Municipal Building Code, concerning the schedule of property record maintenance fees and the expiration and renewal of building permits. And 2, Section 17 of the Germantown Municipal Code, the zoning code, concerning the height of fences installed on properties abutting Highway US 41, the height and size of signs installed on properties abutting Highway US 41, and revisions to the list of permitted and conditional uses allowed in the M1 Limited Industrial Zoning District. This hearing is now open at 8:46. So anyone who wants to come forward, either for or against? Do we have anyone on WebEx, either for or against? This hearing is closed at 8:46. I'll entertain any further questions for staff before I entertain a motion. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 6 amendments to the zoning code as presented.
We have a second.
Second.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to item F. Village of Germantown Community Development Department, single-family versus multifamily housing definitions and ratio policy. And before I turn it over to Jeff, this was my idea. We put together, and everybody has a copy of this, the Sutton Farms Development Fact Sheet. We worked with staff, who worked with Jeff's team on this, on confirming all the data. When I got the final copy, we had the 75-25% current ratio mix with development ratio mix. And then we had the 102 units classified in the multifamily section of 25%. I asked the stupid question. I said, when we heard the applicant, when this was approved, the applicant mentioned that this would all be owner occupied. And yes, he did say that if they couldn't sell something short term, they would lease it. So it would be all owner occupied. I said, well, then why do we have 102 units in the multifamily, which led to further conversations, discussion. And bottom line is, people only care about one thing: apartments in our community, not the multifamily, because Seven Pines is multifamily, but it's all owner occupied. So there's a lot of different, and Lake Park condos, multifamily, all owner occupied. So I'll turn it over to you, Jeff.
Right. And I just wanted to go back. I brought in a bunch of slides that we don't necessarily need to go over, but if you think back to last year, it was beginning in April of last year into May, and then July, and finally in September, where we had a variety of meetings, Plan Commission board, even a board and Plan Commission meeting, where we talked about the whole multifamily, single family ratio policy issue. We discussed what considerations there should be if we have a policy, what considerations need to be taken into account before we establish what that is. We looked at what the current numbers were, the Village of Germantown, relative to other communities in the Southeast Wisconsin area. We looked at the current statistics that we have, but it all came back, frankly, to a point in time where we started to ask ourselves, some of these considerations, where does the definition come into play? Single family versus multifamily. Multifamily housing historically has been viewed as meaning rental, which isn't necessarily the case. Single family housing has historically been interpreted to mean owner occupied, which also isn't always the case. And we even talked about how affordable housing and rental housing historically has been taken to mean subsidized or low income, and that's not always the case. So we started going down that path, but we never quite got to the end of it where we defined some of the terminology, single family detached units versus single family attached units. A single family attached could be, and is by definition, according to the building officials and the building codes, is like a condominium or a townhouse. In some cases, the construction of those structures determines whether it's detached or attached. In some cases, the current strategies are for some developers to build multi-unit buildings, but where the common wall is actually not touching, there's a space or a gap. And so they circumvent the need for certain sprinkler requirements by having fewer units where it's basically a 3 duplexes side by side, and you don't need a sprinkler in a duplex, even though it's a building that for all intents and purposes has 6 units. So there's some definitional stuff that gets in the way. Particularly when you start throwing in the real debate, which, as you pointed out, is ownership versus rental. It isn't necessarily multifamily versus single family, the building type. It's the owner or the occupancy type. It's ownership versus rental. And I put together a couple of tables. I threw them out on the dais this evening, and I apologize for not getting them in the packet. As Bob pointed out, this was an item that was added to the agenda rather late. Table 1 is simply a repeat of something you saw last month for the pre-3. Again, it was in tonight's staff report for the Vertus development. It's a table that I'm hoping will be used going forward, where it identifies our baseline single family versus multifamily ratio and the number of units. And then we introduce what the proposed development is and how many units they're proposing. And then the last rows or bottom of the table is a cumulative total that tracks all of the projects. And then below that, we'll just keep listing projects as they are approved. So in this case, as of March of this year, since the baseline numbers were established as of January 1 of 2024, we've approved Sutton Farms, again, as Bob pointed out, with 169 single family and 102 multifamily. But the question is, are those multifamily really multifamily? Because are they ownership or are they rental? Well, if they're rental, then arguably they should be put in our multifamily category. Or maybe we shouldn't be tracking single family versus multifamily. Maybe we should just be tracking ownership versus rental units. Which sort of led me to table number 2 on the second page. And what I've tried to do is pull out of the statistics that we have, going back to the baseline information, and kind of force it into some categories where on the top, I've got columns, the occupancy type, owner and renter. And on the rows are single family and multifamily. And so there's 4 boxes essentially where there's can be single family types of a dwelling unit that are owner occupied, and there are single family units that are renter occupied. There are multifamily units that are owner occupied and multifamily units that are renter occupied. So when you look at the numbers, clearly the single family owner occupied is the lion's share of our dwelling units. It's 5,434 or 63% of the total. Single family units that are renter occupied, the number is 33, and that was a kind of a forced number. It was basically doing the math on the other 3 categories and coming up with what's left over. It's real hard to get a handle on single family detached buildings that are for rent, because we don't control rentals. We don't say you can't rent single family subdivisions. I'm sure in any given traditional single family detached subdivision, there's at least 1 or more properties in there that are rental properties, but we don't have any real solid way of tracking that information. Moving on, multifamily dwelling unit types that are owner occupied, what sort of multifamily units are under ownership. Well, those are condominiums for all intents and purposes. So we have 1,030 condominium type units in the village. So under the occupancy type of owner, we have 6,464 dwelling units in the village. And that's 75%. And then moving over to the renter category or column, you've got the 33 single-family rentals, again, a rough estimate, 2,122 multifamily rental units. The more traditional apartments included in that would be the more traditional apartments, but it also includes any duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, 5 or more unit buildings. All of those are aggregated into this multifamily rental category. Again, 2,122. So when you look at the total of the renter units in the village, 2,155, that's the 25%. So I guess the question is, going forward, do you want us to look at the dwelling unit type and track that percentage? Or do you want us to look at the occupancy type, owner versus renter? Or should we try and come up with and start tracking based on this sort of tabular information that tracks both single family, multifamily, 2 categories, owner and rental, 2 categories. So our table is relatively small and easy to understand.
Yeah, I think this is great, and I apologize for surprising you at the last minute on this. But based on the atmosphere in our community, and we're going into neighborhood meetings for Gross Neck and also for Flower Source, I think we need this information. My question is on table 2, the 75-25% split. Is that current as of the approved projects that you have identified on table number 1?
No, table 2 just simply reflects the baseline January 1, 2024, the 8,619 total dwelling units in the village at that point in time. So it has not been updated. Didn't have the time to do that yet.
I understand. Great. Commissioners, what say you?
You want to take that one, Bob?
Sure.
Bob and I noticed the same thing over here.
Just a question. So table 1, on the front page, that reflects single family units being a owner and a multifamily unit being a renter. Are we reading this correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Because at this point, the 3 projects that have been approved, only one of them has the single family detached owner concept, and that's Sutton Farms. Now, that, as Bob brought up earlier, the issue that sort of triggered the question is those 102 multifamily units. They're multifamily in this table and in our previous discussions because they're multiple dwellings in a building that share either a common wall between or a common floor between units. And in the case of Sutton Farms, those are those townhouse units, much like the Vertus project, and we don't know. We didn't hear from Greg this evening. It's a question we've been asking. Yes, there's 4 units, but are they ownership or are they rental? What are they going to be? And we don't know. And it's so the same sort of debate. So this table and the numbers that are calculated will change based on how we want to go forward and define multifamily versus single family, or do we want to call it multifamily, single family ownership rental?
Okay, so table 2 shows both. Table 1 is basically calling a single family unit a owner and a multifamily unit a renter.
Well, table 2 breaks it out into both
Right.
renter and owner for each type of dwelling, single family and multifamily.
But the figures that are in table 1 for single family and multifamily are the equivalent of the numbers in table 2 that show owner and renter.
Yes.
That's just what I want to make sure. So owner is basically on table one being a single family unit and a renters being a multifamily unit.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, another question that you might ask is, okay, if we're gonna go forward and track ownership versus renter, what are we gonna do about the baseline, the 8,619 dwelling units that were already in the village, that currently are classified based on, you know, one set of definitions and don't factor in ownership versus rental? Do we need to go back and recategorize those as well? Because certainly some of those dwelling units may fall into the other category once we look at them more closely.
Jeff, question on table one, multifamily. The baseline was 75-25. The split?
Yep.
Specific to multifamily, that includes apartments, the rentals. But does that also include, excuse me, Seven Pines and Lake Park, owner occupied condos?
Yes, they're included, but what category? I couldn't
Okay.
tell you. I'm assuming they would be multifamily.
Okay, Russ?
Sorry, just tracking that same thought. My feedback would be whatever gets us the most accurate data possible, whether it's more work or not, it's important work. So going off of that, let's look at two recently approved projects. The Faith Lutheran attached, we call it multifamily, but it's rental. It's not apartments. On table one, what category is that? Multifamily units?
Which project was that?
The Faith Lutheran.
Oh, the Carillon?
Yeah.
The one on Division?
Yeah.
That one is categorized as multifamily, and rental.
Okay. And in table two, would that go multifamily and rental?
Yes.
Okay, how about the 46 unit development on Fond du Lac, more traditional based apartments?
That also would go under multifamily rental.
Okay. The reason why I bring that up, and I figured that's where the logic would take it. I was a vote for yes on one of those, right? Because of the cause and effect that it will hopefully bring to the village, and a no on the other because of the type of unit and the cause and effect it could have on the village. So at the end of the day, I mean, try to break it down as far as you want, but those are two drastically different projects. Bring different value to the community. They bring different cause and effect to the community. And we're not going to see that reflected in either of these tables.
The one fact that gives me a little bit of pause, and I haven't quite figured it out yet, and that is with regard to the school district. When we look at the MD Rofer study, they obviously projected out dwelling units, they projected out single family and multifamily, and their categorization, the bottom of this slide, they projected out in the entire school district by 2040, there would be, you know, a total of 2,140 new dwelling units. 1,005 would be single family, and included in that single family category are single family detached, but also owner occupied and rentals. So they're acknowledging that for their purposes, calculating
Student count.
the renter versus ownership wasn't necessarily a factor, but we know that it is.
And I would say that report doesn't reflect my rationale and reasoning for my yes vote and no vote in the two projects we talked about. And that report and study would never be able to, I shouldn't say never be able to, but wouldn't take that into account, right? From a slotting standpoint, if you want to look at it that way, of where these properties go. I'm just simply pointing out another nuance of a question probably nobody wanted asked is there's a reality there on why I'm a yes on one and no on the other. And it's its long-term and continuous effect that it causes into the school districts. While we can handle the student pop that does come in, one of those does it in a manner in which is highly volatile from year to year, or can be highly volatile from year to year. The other would actually be more of a normalizing and long arc. So we can financially plan better against one than the other. Does that I guess track for the room that's listening here? It's a nuance, but it's one that we have to, as a school district, take into account. So I think, and to your point, and you're trying to make, is not all rentals are the same. Not all single families are the same. And how do we quantify that as a village and put it into a meaningful track? We can spider it down, I guess, as far as we want, but at some point it becomes a lot of opinion. So I guess I'm throwing in something and I don't have a solution for it, and I don't usually like to do that, but I think it's a nuance to the conversation.
Right. I mean, it adds to the whole conversation. Because I think it's difficult to try and boil it down to one set of statistics that we're tracking for all of our various purposes. It's going to be difficult.
Josh.
Well, my question is, say, for example, Ashbury Woods, those are owner occupied, those are condos.
Right.
Well, I, for example, know somebody who owns 7 of them for the purpose of renting them out. So that would upset the whole formula, right?
Good. Yeah.
Or like,
It's,
somebody
and
has
how
a
do we know that
farmhouse.
other than anecdotal from people who just know? I mean,
right, there's no way to track that or get it reported that,
Right.
like I rent out a house, a single family house, so it's just, I like the chart on the back for just blatant simplicity, but on table 2
Mhm.
makes most sense to me to have like a quick reference to look at, but just knowing that that's going to be slightly skewed too.
Mhm.
But I don't think, like Jeff said, that you can boil it down past that, because there's nobody reporting to make sure that every condo in Lake Park is lived in by the owner,
Mhm. Well, the purpose of tonight was just to put it on the table for conversation, tee it up. We're not going to solve world hunger tonight. We just want to get some feedback from the commissioners on appropriate paths to go down. I know Jeff will digest the information learned tonight or heard tonight and come back with this group with a couple recommendations. I don't think we're ever going to bridge the gap with, oh my gosh, we have too many apartments in Germantown. We don't want to be like Brown Deer. We don't want to be like Menominee Falls. We barked up that tree back in April. We have a baseline. We force ranked all that information. And quite frankly, I like where we're at in terms of the mix. We're at the bottom tier. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It just means that we have a baseline. It means that the plan commission and the village board on any project going forward will review the mix. That's all it means. I mean, we're not going to be stupid about it and say we're going to flex up to 50 or 60. No, we're not. But if it's the right thing to do for the village with minimal impact on the schools, with impact fees coming in, et cetera, with the tax revenue coming in, with the water and sewage fees that were coming in, it might be the right thing to do. All this is just a data point so that we can have the conversation and it's on the front burner. Would I like to do more data mining on this to get more specifics in terms of table number 2? Yes, I would, because we're never going to bridge that gap. Because I had the question, multifamily, what the heck does that mean? So, and kind of keep it simple for guys like me, dumb it down for guys like me. Owner occupied or rentals. So, Bridget?
So as far as I know, we can't say yes or no to a project depending on solely it being owner occupied or rentals. Is that correct? We can't make that.
Yes, it's my understanding that we don't regulate the occupancy type, renter versus ownership directly. We can't say you can't develop and rent these units. Now, can we do other things that would, in effect, prohibit that type of development that would ordinarily or typically be rental? I'm sure that we could, whether it be lot size, building type, number of, number of rooms, number of bathrooms. A lot of communities, for example, they rule out mobile homes, the old traditional mobile homes, by adopting a minimum standard for a single family dwelling to be a certain dimension of living space that the old traditional mobile home can't ever achieve, because it needs to be hauled down the road and, have to fit within a certain width. So yeah, I'm sure there's things that can be done if that's what the village wants to do. Yes.
Well, the recent project of that was approved by the Plan Commission and the Village Board was the Victory Place. That was on Fond du Lac, 145, and that was, gosh, 10 years ago, the initial development was proposed there.
Oh,
almost.
Closer to 20 years ago,
20
the
years.
school and the church and the
And Pringle
facility.
Park for 20 years now to present, it's been finally approved. So to answer your question, can we say yay or nay? Well, apparently something happened in that 20-year span where folks didn't want to come into our community. So. Bob?
Sorry, guys. I thought we were already done with these ratios. The golden rule is 75-25, right? The more we drill down on this, are we gonna manage it to this drill down level?
Well, if you remember back in September, the general conclusion was we're not going to adopt a specific policy, but we were going to keep track. And we were going to report with each residential project the things that we've been reporting. And that's what we're doing. Now, let's take your question and take a leap here. This graphic was put together using the MD Rofer's projections. If you look at the area in the circle, they were projecting out that through 2040, there would be, in the village of Germantown, a total of 1,717 additional dwelling units. Single family, the traditional detached, would be 582. Multifamily would be 1,135. So the percentage that they were projecting going forward for the village was 34% would be single family detached, 66% would be multifamily attached, but without regard to ownership or renter status. It's just structural type. And so when you look at those numbers, you combine them with the existing, what you get is a ratio that goes from 75-25 to 68-31. So if we continue to track and the projects that are presented to us and approved are in fact approved as was anticipated in the Rofer's report, that's ultimately the percentage that we're looking at. And those projects include the Sutton Farms. They include a Blackstone Creek with 300 multifamily units. It includes a Village Center with 275 multifamily units. So, arguably, this is kind of the worst case scenario as we can currently see it or project it as far as what that reduction or what impact on the ratio would be.
I get the numbers, I get the ratios and stuff like that, but I think as we were looking at this detail, would we ever tell a developer, you can't develop here because you screw up our ratio?
No, but I think the developers are probably listening in tonight because there's some developers that are potentially in the queue that want to come before this body and to the full village board. And depending on the tone that they are hearing from us, they're going to make a go or no go decision. I'm extremely open-minded, quite frankly. So
one thing that we might want to consider and explore further, because I don't know exactly how it works in the state of Wisconsin, but where I used to work, there were methods to regulate the number of new dwellings that could be built in a particular time frame to try and better manage how that impact comes online and affects schools and roads and what have you. We're in an economy where we're driven by net new construction and that affecting our property taxes. I remember a few years ago, we had a lot of new development, industrial development, and that net new construction number was pretty high. but we didn't, take advantage of that, so to speak, in terms of setting the property tax high enough to utilize all of that net new construction. So that sort of begs the question, maybe we should manage that net new construction and allow some of it to take place so it helps offset increases in property taxes and the need for increased property taxes, but do it in a way where it's spread out over time and more efficient, not where we get a slug of 1,000 dwelling units and we're able, the net new construction value is astronomical, but we're not going to, set our property tax revenue based on what that allows. But if we only had a portion of that each year for over a course of 3 to 5 years, like a phased development, that would be more efficient for us in terms of its impact on our ability to offset property tax increases.
So anyway, further comments. I think, Bob?
Jeff, just based on what I hear when everyone comes up to talk about these developments, to me, it seems as though the owner versus renter is really the more pertinent information than single and multi. And I apologize if you said this earlier, but how did you quantify a renter versus a owner? Like I'm just thinking we must have a database of every address in here, and if the same owner's name comes up multiple times, they can't all be owner occupied. So we'd have to assume one is owner occupied and they're renting out the other 6. Or how did you determine what was rented versus owned?
Frankly, we didn't do that level of analysis. Certainly, I'm not comparing, the property ownership database to current residents. If we even had the current resident database available, that would be tricky to get a cumulative base that's accurate. In large measure, it's based on what as far as new development, it's easy, right? We ask, are these for sale or are these for rent? Sutton Farms is probably the most honest opinion we've gotten so far. It's like, we would intend to sell them, but if we have to, we might rent some of them. We didn't get anything out of Greg yet, but it's only 4 units, so not a big deal. As far as the existing, data, sort of relying on the Census Bureau and other data sources that have accumulated data over time based on what they were told. And I don't know who told them and what they were told.
7 condos. If they came up on an ownership list as owning 7 condos, we know they can't all be owner occupied, so 6 of them would have to be rental. So that's what I was trying to figure out, is what level of detail you went to get to renter versus owned.
Yeah, it's such an imperfect system. It would be difficult to really get very accurate on it. I think we just have to pick a point in time and just move forward.
Well, you can accomplish that task by working with the county assessor, pulling the tax records for what we know is owner occupied, like 7 Pines. We could do a deep dive on every single property there. And if 7 units come back as an LLC, well, that's a clue. They're running. So, Russ?
Yeah, so I think kind of 2 things. One, that is, if you look at the national level, that is a topic of conversation and concern. How many of these single-family homes are being bought up by LLCs, corporations, and turned into rentals, which stagnate the housing market? And we can get into all that, right? And certainly that's a topic for conversation. I just want to point out the fact that we're having that conversation and discussing these tables and discussing and seeing the presentations, not only from Jeff and his team, include data that the school district's been asking to have included in topic of conversation. But the developers are now coming forward and bringing those out to us. This team this group of people at this commission and the village board have made a commitment to having that as part of the conversation for every development that's coming forward. So from my end of the table, and that's kind of what I've been asking for some time now, it's starting to come to fruition, and it's just becoming a natural thought process in regards to it. Are we ever going to get the 75-25, 68-31? The reality is, if we follow what's going on, it's going to escalate to 68-31. but are we having a mindful conversation around it? And is it responsible development? And are all parties being involved in that conversation? That's the important part. In the community, we try to bring along as much understanding as possible in a forthright manner. And I think that's what we're seeing happen. So is it going to be a perfect table? I don't know. But are we having this conversation and is that going to be perfect enough? It probably will be.
Figure it out.
So
what I'll commit to do is based on conversation this evening, I'll work with Jeff's team and we'll come back at a later time with some recommendation. So is that okay? Okay, any further comments? I know Bob wants to stay for another hour and a half. So this meeting's adjourned at 9:20. Drive home safe, everyone. Take care. Sorry.
Yeah, somebody at 9:15. Somebody came in late. Yeah, somebody came in late.